State of the franchise is back, and we find ourselves in, I think, some new territory, Jason. I'm not sure we have ever done a show in the regular season where the 49ers playoffs hopes weren't there. I think we started this in 2021.
Mm-hmm.
49ers have been to the playoffs every year. So this will be our first show that we've done since 2021 where the 49ers and the playoffs aren't a thing. So we're going to talk about how this team moves forward. What do they do? And all the different things that come along with that. Obviously, off-season talks have already begun, and there's 3 games left to play. We'll talk about how the 49ers should handle those 3 games and everything in between. But drop your spicy sourdoughs in the chat. Let's get this thing rolling. That's Jason Aponte. I'm Brad Graham. We're going to get into it all right now. Jason, while the 49ers haven't been mathematically eliminated,
Mm-hmm.
I think we all know that the playoffs aren't going to happen this year. So how do you feel considering the current circumstances for the squad?
Well, clearly it's disappointing, especially when you have people predicting the 49ers getting back. I think the team themselves already had those sort of aspirations, but I actually am rather intrigued with this offseason and the way they move forward because the possibilities for this team to reload and restack or retool, rebuild, whatever it is that you'd have are limitless, I think. And there's different ways to skin a cat, and whether that's in the draft, in free agency, there's going to be turnover on this team. But I'm excited to see what the next season of almost the next chapter of the Shanahan era is going to be. And I'm excited to see how the 49ers move off of some of these names on the back of the jerseys that we love at certain times and how they continue to sustain winning and what that process looks like. So I'm not saying that I'm happy, but I think for me, I'm intrigued with how the 49ers are about to go about this process of restacking this cupboard.
I agree. There's going to be a lot of conversations about players coming, players going, like who's going to stay, who's leaving, all that stuff, who we're adding. But before we get into that talk, the 49ers still have 3 games remaining. How do you anticipate the 49ers moving forward with the rest of the season, knowing that you're playing for pride at this point? So, how do the 49ers use these 3 games to actually accelerate the offseason process?
For me, I think it would be evaluating. And I think your first step is already Kyle Shanahan talking about Trent Williams not playing. Jalen Moore's played very well, and he's at least thrown himself into the competition for whatever spot would be next year. There's no way that this team probably moves off Jalen Moore because of how well he's played in absence of Trent Williams. For me, I'd like to see more young players. You don't bench Deebo Samuel, but you rotate Ricky Pearsall in more and more. Jacob Cowan, get him on the field. Let's see. I'm fine with rookie development and rookie mistakes in the name of development. I'm fine with that. And now you have to figure out who's a part of this long-term process and who's a part of this long-term plan for you. And you have to play them at this point. And I think there's a lot of guys that are here that are auditioning for an extra contract, i.e., Dre Greenlaw, who I think passed that test on Thursday. I don't have to see anything else from him, going forward. But Dre wants to get out there and play. You can tell that this means so much to him and the heartbeat of the defense. Hufanga has thrown himself back into this discussion as we all kind of just sat there and said, well, we think he's the odd man out because it'll probably be Malik and Tig. Hufanga has really thrown himself back in there, which lends itself to the nature of a week-to-week basis, right? This is how this league is. And then you have the other guys, which it's really the receivers we've got to figure out a little bit more about. But for me, I'd like to see Nick Zakelj. I'd like to see possibly Drake Nugent instead of Brendel. I'd like to see Spencer Burford instead of Aaron Banks. The problem is moving off of guys on the offensive line can really put Purdy at risk. And I think that's the one thing that you don't want to do. But I just want to see the young guys play. I want to see them make mistakes. I want to see them have their growing pains. I'd rather, again, I don't have a problem with mistakes from rookies in the name of development. What I have a problem is with veterans who are making mistakes, and it's not changing who they are. So yeah, I think it's time to audition these guys and see what you got moving forward.
Yeah, I agree. I want to start on the offensive line. I think I've seen everything that I need to see from Jake Brendel.
Yep.
I think that we have been able to determine that if the 49ers want to improve offensively next year, they need to improve at that position as well. So to your point, Nick Zakelj needs to get playing time because we don't know what Nick Zakelj is. What I would say from what we saw from his rookie season, I guess rookie preseason to his sophomore preseason, vastly improved. So, and he's a very similar style player to Brendel. He's not a power center. He's a finesse center. He's not a guy who's going to dig out these big, zero techs. He's going to, beat you to the right, to the left. He's going to get the backer. He's going to do those types of things. So I want to see what a younger version of Brendel looks like, because I think the thing that the offense is struggling with right now is interior penetration. So if they're going to seriously consider Zakelj next year to compete at center, let's get him in some real games against starting defensive tackles and see how he handles that power. I want him to check that box for me. I want to see dig out this zero tech. I want you to be able to win the line of scrimmage. I know he can. I know he's got speed. That's what works for him. I want to see that. With Banks, I'm curious to know what your thoughts are on this, because I've also reached a level where I think the 49ers need to upgrade at that position as well. Ben Bartch stepped in against the Buffalo Bills, played phenomenally. Unfortunately, he gets hurt in a freak injury, so we can't see any more of that. But because Banks is a free agent, do you think the 49ers should let him ride it out in hopes that his play can garner him a free agent contract that then triggers the comp formula to be able to kick a pick back? Or is there an offensive lineman, let's say Drake Nugent, that you would rather see? Or do you try to find a happy medium between the two?
I think we both agree that Aaron Banks is going to get paid. And with the way that the offensive line market is, they generally get overpaid because of how hard it is to find those guys.
Correct. And the market went up. And he actually might be considered a value based on the market.
So my thing is, the reason that I wanted to see Burford is because Burford has experience on the left side of the line and played pretty well when he was asked to jump in week 1 when Aaron Banks got hurt against the Jets. That could be a way to, whether you draft somebody and have them sit, that could be the way that you fill that position with very little added to it. And it could be something that you find almost like found money. Now, again, anything that Burford would do in this time, in these 3 games, if he did play, was just buy himself an audition. At least have him in the competition. It doesn't mean that he's locking up the spot. Don't take what I'm saying for that.
Well, luckily for Burford, he's going to be on the roster next year.
Yes,
right?
Yeah.
He's under contract, so he'll still be on his rookie deal, so he should be here.
Right, but he'll literally be he'll have a chance. Like he'll throw himself into the competition with whoever they decide to bring in, and then you can figure it out from there. But the way that you audition it and the way that you set it up is you let him play these 3 games. Now, the comp pick thing is very interesting, and I think that's a very good point, because the 49ers have found themselves in that position of, I don't want to say exploiting the compensatory pick process, but they know what they're doing when it comes to
taking advantage of it.
Yes, 100%. Now, it doesn't look like they're going to have anyone from their staff move on and take a higher role, especially a minority coach, so you can throw that out. I think they're getting something. They're getting something this year from the last year. So maybe that's what they're thinking. They're thinking, hey, we can exploit this and grab ourselves another pick, which can possibly be used in the first round to move up for somebody that they really want. All of those things. It's an interesting conversation because it's give and take when it comes to those things. What do you value more, that pick, or do you want to just see what Burford has and possibly in these next 3 games have a feather in your cap and a little bit of found money. Like, hey, you know what? If push came to shove and Spencer Burford had to start at left guard, we feel much better about that now today than we ever did because we actually have whatever sample size of him playing there. So it's give and take. For me, I feel the way that you feel. I know what Aaron Banks is, and I know Aaron Banks is gone. But if they want that pick, then I understand completely. If that's what they're going for in that comp pick, then I completely get that. But I still would like to see over these next 3 games, Spencer Burford getting in there and getting his feet wet and showing what he can do at that position, because I think he might have been a little bit miscast at right guard as opposed to the side that he's more comfortable with that he played in college.
Let me throw this hypothetical at you.
Mm-hmm.
5th, 6th round draft pick. We'll just throw it in that value because I don't think he'll garner like big time starter money in free agency for Banks, or starting Burford 3 games to see what you got, which drops maybe Banks to like, let's call it a 5th. And if he doesn't play, drops him to a 7th.
The 49ers have done really well in those rounds. They really have.
It's found money either way.
They really have. So one way or another, I think there's no right or wrong answer here. But if you're going to hold my feet to the fire, I'm going to say I'd rather see Burford because I want Burford to get those live reps, and I think that's where, the 49ers kind of, I don't want you resting on your laurels that you've hit in the 5th and 6th in years past, instead of evaluating this roster today and finding out what you can have with someone who's on your roster today that will be here tomorrow. So, yeah, we can point to their success in those rounds, and that's fine. But resting on your laurels that we can do it again is a little bit arrogant, or just relying on past instead of doing what you can do to evaluate the roster today.
Absolutely. So I think offensive line, well, we know Jalen Moore is a free agent, so it sounds like you're erring on re-signing him. What does that deal do you think look like?
Not much, I don't think. I think, again, with the way that the season's kind of played out, I think you expect Trent Williams to come back, especially because his money is going to hit again next year, so you expect him to come back. But Jalen Moore has been one of the really nice developments this season. Now, your only concern is, does someone else see that? And today, it kind of scared me, and I hated this. Ian Rappaport was like, well, Jalen Moore's been playing very well. Can you shut up? Stop saying
that?
Yeah, I'm like, stop saying the quiet part out loud, dude. Be quiet. I don't even think anybody knew outside of 49ers land who the backup was. And you're out here saying, well, are their good young talent, Jalen Moore, who's been playing well. Be quiet, Rappaport. What are you doing?
Jalen Moore getting the bag this offseason, right? Confirmed.
So someone might overpay him, but I don't think you have to pay him much to come back. And as a depth piece, like, look, he's done well when called into action, man. He had been not the problem with this offensive line. So yeah, I think it's a good thing to have him around, and I think it wouldn't take much unless someone else is finding out about him when they shouldn't be saying stuff like that too.
Well, they're going to watch the tape, Jason, and there's a lot of tape of Jalen Moore this year, so they're going to have a big sample size, even going back to last year. I mean, they can go all the way back to his rookie season. He's played well in a good amount of spots, as long as it's not on the right side. He's great on the left, and let's face it, left tackles don't grow on trees. So someone very well could be like, all right, what is he, probably 25 years old, got the reps, played behind Trent Williams in the 49ers scheme. Oh, that's very attractive. Let's take a shot on this guy. So that's, I think, one of the pitfalls, is because you'd have to convince Moore to come back as a backup, right, opposed to being a potential starter somewhere else for more money. So that's one of the things that I think will be an interesting consideration. So basically, it sounds like we're thinking that from center to the left, we got to see some new blood in the water over there, and get some out there.
Yeah, and again, you're going to do your process in the draft. Obviously, I believe that the 49ers are just going to invest in the trenches on both sides these first few picks. I don't think that it's really too much of a stretch to say that. Defensive line for sure, off the rip. But here, I just want to read real quick.
Because you said it. Mm-hmm. Defensive line, offensive line, had to bet your life on it. Who are they drafting in the first round?
Defensive line, especially if they go up higher. Um,
I agree.
I just want to read Ian Rappaport's tweet word for word. While the news of Trent Williams likely being done for the year isn't great, San Francisco has seen some of its bright young talent thrive with offensive tackle Jalen Moore. He's learned from the best, backing up Williams the last 4 years. Now we'll start for the rest of the season. Thanks a lot, Ian.
Yeah, we're good.
We're trying to sneak him by. Everyone's got your noties on, and you're out here telling everybody who the backup was, who's been very solid in Trent Williams' spot. But no, I think defensive line. I think while Leonard Floyd has really kind of picked it up these last few weeks, when depth is tested, it's when you really find out that depth is just depth, and you don't want to ever do that. I think the 49ers need to find running mates for Nick Bosa. Obviously, we think Javon Hargrave is going to go. They really need to get back to. They've got the outside, right? They've got the secondary now, right? You're fine with Bernardo Green, number 9th in pass coverage, according to PFF. You're fine with Diamador Lenore, number 15. By the way, 2 spots behind Diamador Lenore, Samuel Womack III, who's been playing outside corner for the Indianapolis Colts. Take that for whatever you think it's worth. Malik Mustafa, and then you figure out the other spot, whether that's Hufanga, whether you go back to the draft for somebody else, whether you believe that Jair Brown's going to turn the corner. But it has to be defensive line because everything else looks fine. Fred Warner, by no accident, had the best game of his season basically when Dre Greenlaw returned. And Dre Greenlaw, obviously in 30 snaps, he had 8 tackles. He would have had 30 tackles if you'd have played the full complement. So he looks fine. And you just have to get back to the defensive line now. Like, you have to get those dogs that are able to finish. The 49ers defensive line had 20 pressures on Thursday, 0 sacks. Pressures are great, but you gotta finish. And he needs that consistent running mate, even if Leonard Floyd's been picking it up. Yetur Gross-Matos has turned it on a little bit more as well, too. You still need a young impact guy. And the higher you're up in this draft in the first round, the better chance you have of hitting on a blue chip guy.
Well, I think we both talked about it last year when they drafted Pooney. We're like, okay, this is the Aaron Banks, Lincoln Tomlinson deal where they draft a year ahead, sit him. Pooney thankfully gets into the lineup, so we know exactly what he is. We know we can count on him. All right, that's one of the reasons why we think Banks is not going to be here. But on top of that, a similar situation can apply with Leonard Floyd. He's only got 1 year left on his deal, and he's not a spring chicken. So you can't think that Leonard Floyd is going to be here 3 years from now. So you absolutely have to start thinking of a succession plan. And same thing with Yetur Gross-Matos. He's just signed a 2-year deal as well. So I just really hope that the 49ers go all in on trenches. I don't know what they're going to do. I think they always kind of surprise us with who they end up, kind of falling in love with. But I really hope that, just like you said, it's trench heavy in the first 3 rounds, D-line, offensive line, and then pick your poison, interior defensive tackle, O-line. I'm fine even kicking O-line back to the 3rd again, because if you go interior, you can find a center and guard in the 3rd round that will start for you for 10 years. It just happens every single year. So if you want to prioritize edge defensive tackle in the first 2 rounds, shoot, I'm for it. I've already seen fans crying about it. Like, oh, D-line in the first round. Like, I don't care, man. The 49ers was one of their weakest spots. Yes, it's gotten better as the year has progressed, but we saw how quickly when their depth was tested, how you need to be solidified at that defensive line spot. We knew it was kind of shaky coming in, and you got to fill up and retool that cabinet. So I really hope that's what they do.
Yeah, and last season we looked at this draft class and it was secondary. And it felt like a departure from what the 49ers had been doing, which was, building from the inside out. Well, now, for all intents and purposes, you feel great about what your secondary looks like right now. And they're all young and they're all going to get better. So you can get back to the defensive line now. And that's the last piece, because Fred and Greenlaw, as long as they're there, are clearly fine. But it's a defensive line right now that you can invest back in because of what you've done in this draft and hitting in the secondary in this draft. So that's why when you look at one draft class and you say, well, that's a departure from what they've done. Well, they tried something different. They went and they got coverage. It's clearly worked because Green and Lenore have been so good, and you have your starter in Malik. But now it's time to get back to that. And the only way you could just go right back to that is if you had a successful draft like you did with the secondary members. So that's why I find this offseason so interesting, because now the 49ers can kind of go back to the things that they used to do because this draft class was so successful with their departure from their familiar ideology in the draft, which is defensive line up front, up front, up front. You can now go back to that, but you can only go back to that because of how well you drafted in this draft with your secondary and what you've been able to do in past drafts with Diamador Lenore now being the cornerstone of this secondary, because I think we both believe that Mooney Ward is about to move on.
That's actually what my next question was going to be is do you think Mooney Ward stays? And it sounds like, do you think that obviously, you know, terrible situation with him and how that all played out, but we do know that contracts are based off resume regardless of circumstance. Do you think that him having a bit of a down year, and rightfully so, maybe opens up the door for him to return on a, you know, like, I want to be here, let's run it back? Because if Mooney came out last year, he probably gets what, like a top 5 cornerback contract. So I don't know if he gets that same amount or is valued that way. I don't know, just based on what we had kind of seen. But do you think that maybe opens up the door for let's work something out?
It makes it a discussion, but I think people are going to view his season as the full resume. And hearing Mooney say it's really been hard to just even be in meetings, in practice, that stuff is the stuff that I can't ever imagine. And not to say that that's the entire reason, because obviously before that happened, you know, we were asking like, where's Mooney? He was dealing with a little bit of injuries as well too. But I think when evaluators are going to look at him, they're going to look at this season from a totality standpoint. And they're going to consider what happened with his family and the tragedy and everything as well too, because how could that not affect him?
Right, of course.
But I think the way that people are valuing him, and they're going to value him, is another defensive coordinator is going to look and say, he fits our scheme, I can fix him, let's get him in here. And they may pay him a little bit more. And I think that's a valued position in corner, especially in a passing league where wide receivers are getting open and doing whatever they want, you know, based on the rules. I think someone else is going to pay him. And I think it at least opens the door for him discussing like a prove it 1-year deal, something like that. I wouldn't be completely opposed to it, but I just think that someone else is going to pay him, and he has every right to take whatever deal that he gets, because he doesn't have too many more deals left in the tank for the rest of his career as well.
Yeah, and I think, again, as we applied the same logic to the Pooney Banks, Renardo, Mooney, it seems like they were already anticipating this. Paying Diamador was, I think we were concerned about both of them staying, and I think they picked who they wanted to invest into the future. They went with the younger player, which is pretty standard for these franchises. So yeah, I get that. I for sure think that the cornerstone pieces are absolutely going to be Diamador and Renardo, and then it'll be fascinating to see if they potentially look at corner in the top 3 rounds too, because I was kind of thinking about this last night, is if they let Mooney go, they have had a really hard time finding that third corner, right? They found it this year with Renardo, but we had Mooney kind of like in and out of the lineup. So he actually became the second guy. And then Yadam has been a disappointment. They've tried Ambry. They've tried all these guys that are like 3rd round picks or beyond, and they've never really found their footing. I don't think Darrell Luter's a guy, at least from what we've seen, that we can rely on. Maybe he gets more run. I don't know. But it would be fascinating to see if they value cornerback in the first 3 rounds this year.
Yeah, it will. But I do think, like you said, they have made their decision with Lenore. I do think that, and I see the comment right there, should have kept Sam Womack. Samuel Womack, again, the number 17th highest graded pass coverage cornerback 2 spots behind Diamador Lenore, and he's been playing exclusively outside in a Gus Bradley defense.
I never
That's
understood
one.
why he got doghoused. It never made sense to me.
I always felt that he just didn't have the speed to be outside, but with the way that Gus Bradley runs his zones, he's been a natural fit there. And funny enough, him and Diamador Lenore have allowed the same amount of receptions on target, 66.3%, which is, I don't know how you take that or what you think is. But you look at that, and then you feel like, well, you kept Ambry Thomas on this team for an IR spot, and then you wound up just cutting him, and you let Womack go, you let Kingston go, and it just
Cody
I
Schrader.
I don't want to get too deep in the weeds and saying like this was a mistake, but that's got to be viewed as a mistake, right? Holding on to Ambry Thomas
Absolutely.
and then just getting rid of him for nothing, and then seeing Samuel Womack flourish somewhere else. By the way, I don't know how this makes you guys feel, and I brought it up to Brad before we got out there. The number 4 highest graded pass blocking guard in the NFL is Matt Pryor, former 49ers practice squad legend. Take any of those things for whatever you will. I had to double check and triple check. I couldn't believe it. But there are 49ers that are out there flourishing in other places. Is it Ambry Thomas's time now when he goes over to Indianapolis? And the 49ers did invest something very high in him. I think you just continue to draft cornerbacks no matter where you get them. If they have the physical traits and the style that you're looking for with Renardo Green, Dog, Lenore, like that, Dog, like if they have that, then keep on, because you never know. And you'd rather have it and not need it than need it and not have it. But we have to, we're going to see how Ambry Thomas's career goes from here. But the Samuel Womack one looks like a big miss, even though you and I were just like, I don't know how he sticks on this roster. Like, you've got to move off of him. That looks like a mistake
They were never playing him.
Right.
He was buried on the depth chart.
Mm-hmm.
Similar thing happened to Diamador Lenore after, I think it was that week 3 game in Green Bay that we actually watched together. Based on kind of how he handled that last play. So, I mean, the 49ers, I think, would you agree with the sentiment that they seem reluctant to play young players? They do play young players. Like, let's be honest, they do.
Yeah.
But there does seem like there are times when there seems like a reluctancy to put guys out there.
Yes and no. And I think these last few years have kind of shown us a little bit different. Spencer Burford starts right away when he comes in. Pooney starts right away. I do think there is a little bit of, well, even if he's a rookie, he's outplaying people, we're not just going to not play him, right? Now, I think there's been plenty of times where we've seen a rookie perform and they've gone back to the veteran. And I don't know what goes into that, whether that's trust, whatever it is. But I don't think that it's as reluctant as it used to be. I think there's certain positions where Kyle is rigid, and that's wide receiver.
Right.
So obviously that's obviously where I'm going to go with this, talking about Pearsall and Cowing, right? The reluctance to put them out there because you're afraid they won't be in the right spot. They don't see the game the way that you see it. And I think that's a little bit because Kyle's a former wide receiver. He's very hands-on with the offense. I think there's the grip is loosening on other players because we've seen Renardo Green play right off the bat. Lenore played off the bat. Even when in a pinch, they found a way to get Ambry Thomas in there in 2021, and he has the big pick at the end of the game. So there is a little bit there where they're actually loosening that, but I just don't see it at wide receiver, and I think a little bit of that is because Kyle's a former wide receiver, and if you're not seeing it how I see it, and if you're not seeing it where you need to be, and you're not right where you need to be, I'd rather play Chris Conley because I know he's going to be where I need him to be, as opposed to taking a shot on upstart guys who can give you a little bit more. And it was evidence on Thursday. Pearsall's running a route to the end zone. Brock thinks he's going to break it back or he's going to keep it back. The ball's behind him. Boom, incompletion. Should have been a touchdown. It just little stuff like that. It's the small details. And the wide receivers, I think that's Kyle's baby. And that's why he's so hard on all those guys. Because even after Ayuk's first year, he still was like, hey, you're not doing things the way I need you to do, buddy.
Doghouse,
doghouse. Trent Sherfield's going in there, man. So I think it's wide receiver. I think everywhere else, the grip is loosening. But at wide receiver, it's going to be as rigid as it always is because that's Kyle's baby, and he's a former wide receiver.
Quarterback as well. We saw that
Yeah.
play out in
Yeah.
real time.
Start Kyle the last 3 games. Show us how the offense is run, Kyle.
Yeah. I would love to see that. That would
Yeah.
be so fire. So yeah, I just wanted to get your thoughts on that because we have seen rookies step in. I mean, look at Malik Mustafa playing absolutely phenomenal. Renardo Green, we've already mentioned. Dominic Pooney gets in due to circumstantial reasoning, but never gives it up. And they're like, all right, we're good with this. I think was it Brunskill's or no, it was Burford's rookie year when they platooned him, right? And we saw that
Yeah.
weird, like, whatever thing that they were doing.
Right, like he would come in and then like they didn't want him to
He
get
would start
overwhelmed,
the
but
game and then they would rotate.
that also tells you too, Burford was getting the first shot, right? Like he got the first shot right off the bat. Like that's a little bit of it too. So again, we're seeing a little bit of a changing when it comes to different positions, just not at wide receiver.
Does it feel like it's easier to throw rookies out on defense than it is on offense? In Kyle's scheme.
Yes and no. I think the reason that it's easier on defense for Kyle is that he's not as hands-on with the defense. Right. So the little details are he'll oversee it, but the little details are up to Sorensen and Staley to figure out, right? And he kind of trusts them to do it. And I think he has a little bit more leeway to put them on offense. No, you've got to see it how I see it. And if you don't, Chris Conley's always right there for me to just, throw in there and just play, or Ronnie Bell's going to get out there. Like it's because he has so much control on the offense that it's harder to see rookies get in there at skill position spots than it is on defense, because I think he has a little bit more of a hands-off approach.
I think mental errors drives him.
Yes.
Mentally insane.
You can make the catch. You can have a long run. You can make the catch, have a long run, even score a touchdown. But if you didn't do what he wanted you to do, Kyle's going to be very upset with you. So
he's going to MF you.
Yeah.
until it sinks in. So yes, that's what we've come to learn from Kyle. From the outside looking in. Tommy says our O-line is absolute dog meat.
It was bad on Thursday. Oh, baby. It was very bad on Thursday. It was very bad. And Pooney's hitting like a little bit of a rookie wall right now, just a little bit. I think these are the most games. There's the most games he's played. Brendel was bad. Banks was bad. Jalen Moore was fine. And Cole McKivitz was fine. How many times have we been saying like these last few weeks, like Cole McKivitz was all right, and so was Jalen Moore and Pooney, but then it's the other two guys. They were really bad Thursday.
Yeah. I really did try to give Brendel the benefit of the doubt first 2 games of the year. I wasn't pleased with his performance, but I'm like, this dude's been doing this long enough. He should be able to pick it up. And he picked it up for a couple games and then went right back to even worse than he was the first 2 games. And I'm like, all right. I can't anymore. Like, it's just, me, I like to pay attention to the O-line, and it's frustrating to watch. I'm getting angered by like what I guess maybe like what Kyle feels when some of the rookies go out there, repeated mistakes, doing the things that are technically taught wrong consistently, like getting your head across when you're reach blocking, taking the correct tracks when you're getting out in space, trying to block a linebacker or safety or on a screen, just consistently doing the things that are day one stuff for offensive linemen wrong. And, those are the things where you're just like, oh, why isn't the run game working? Why are we constantly passing? Oh, it's because we only got 1 first down against whoever we played last week, the Rams, and they can't run the ball because they can't run behind Brendel and Banks. And what we've talked about when we've done our shows is all it takes is one guy on that front to not do their job to destroy a run concept. 2 guys not doing their job in a run concept is guaranteed failure. So that's why they can't run the ball. These guys just they're constantly making the technical mistakes. And that's where my frustration comes from. Hey, if you're getting overpowered by Aaron Donald, all right, we can rationalize that. Like, but if you're just not taking the correct footwork, if you're taking the wrong step. You're taking a stretch step. You should be taking a zone step. Like that again, day one stuff. Like over and over again, it gets frustrating. So for me, that's where I'm like, all right, we need a serious, like we tried. They tried to their fullest extent with Brendel and Banks and Burford, and obviously Pooney comes in, and it's time to just we need a new interior. We need to address that position and upgrade, and it really needs to happen. I felt like I put it out on the timeline. You know, I'm ready to go do these battles over the all line any day of the week. I'm fine with McKivitz. And we talk about this all the time too. He's never going to be top 15 guy. If I don't need him to be top 15 guy. If he's fringe top 15, I can live with that. And he's kind of in that fringe 10 to 20 range. And based on what he's getting paid, I can live with that.
That's the key, is the evaluation process in your investment. Yes. How much did you invest in the guy, and what is the production and value you're getting? If you look at that through that lens, things become a little bit more clear. Everyone wants a Hall of Fame All-Pro right tackle. Everyone. The problem is those guys get paid a lot. They're not just walking around in the street. They're just not guaranteed when you go and draft them. But if you're getting average production from someone that you're just paying pennies on the dollar to, it's extreme value. That's value, right? Like that's how you should be looking at it. It's less about how does McKivitz stack up against the best right tackle in the league, as opposed to,
well, he's not Penei Sewell, Jason.
Why is he not as good as Penei Sewell? Well, nobody is, and you're not paying him much. So the production you're getting in terms of money invested is where you'll look and say, this isn't nearly as bad as you are making it right now. Now, because he's not one of those top 5 guys, and people would love to see the 49ers invest in offensive line, which I don't think is wrong at all.
Right.
That's where a lot of the bad reputation comes from with him. He's not a top 5 guy. They don't invest in that position. He stinks. No, I don't think he stinks. I think he's average. And I think when you look at the investment, it's fine. That's fine. Now, if you want more from right tackle, I'm not going to argue with you. And I think you're right. Everybody would love more. Everyone would love a better offensive line. Everyone would love to have all Hall of Famers, all pros at all 5 positions.
Absolutely.
But there's different ways to skin a cat. And the 49ers, with the offensive line that they sent out there last year, were plays away from finishing in the Super Bowl. So it's hard to argue with where they were able to get.
Daza says, actually, we could have had an all-pro right tackle, but we drafted kids.
Yes, we know. I agree.
Daza, you could do this probably.
He's right, though.
15 times over.
We all said that, though. Like, we all said that, though, during that draft. We all said that. Like, we were just like, there he is. He's right there. And they allowed the Bucs to jump them.
Yeah. I mean, I think I can't imagine anyone, we like to follow the draft. Yes, we aren't in draft rooms. We don't have the access that they have and the information that they have. So our scouting reports are always going to be diminished compared to theirs because they just have infinite information. But no one thought like they were. I mean, I think we thought of the idea of, okay, they're trading DeForest and they're going to take that pick and they're going to invest it into Kinlaw, but it didn't make sense. He was so raw. Like he had the size and the speed, right? But he was just such a raw prospect that we were like, oh, this is, I talk about it all the time. It's like, you are gambling when you invest in a raw prospect, because if they haven't shown the ability to understand the technical aspects of the game in college, that means they have to learn it in the NFL. And as we know, Jason, especially in the trenches, the NFL isn't necessarily a developmental league. It's a get in there and play, or we're moving on to the next type of league. So that's why for me, we used to get hyped off these height, weight, speed, intangible freaks. And then I realized really quickly, well, if they don't have the requisite technique to be able to just do their job, they aren't going to last very long. So that's the biggest thing. It's like so that's why I always weight technique over raw ability, because over time the trends have pointed to the guys with the technique, they last the longest and they tend to pan out the most.
And then the other cardinal sin that the 49ers committed was drafting for need and not for value.
That's all they do early is draft for
right,
need.
Right. Like just because you do need someone and just because there's someone of that position that's available doesn't mean that that's the correct pick. And I'm not trying to tell the 49ers how to do it, because scouting is an imperfect process. A lot of it has to go into, your meetings and what you feel, and you have to trust your own process. The 49ers have done a good enough job where they deserve grace when it comes to that. But just
hit on a lot of great players.
Right, 100%. But just because I need a wide receiver in the first round and there's a wide receiver available doesn't mean that you need to take a wide receiver. Just because I need an offensive tackle and there's an offensive tackle available doesn't mean you need to take an offensive tackle.
Right.
And the better teams understand value, where to find other guys, and trust their board. If someone's higher on your board at a different position than the position of need, then you've got to pivot. And if the guy that you want is not there, you pivot. And I think that's exactly what happened. They didn't get Roger Rosengarten. They went and they got Bernardo Green. They pivoted. That's good drafting. But drafting for need is always going to put you in a position where you're in trouble. And that's where you're going to find yourself pushing a square peg into a circle hole and trying to just say, this is what we needed. We took them. So you just want any defensive tackle, or do you want the right defensive tackle? And I think that's the hard part of this whole process with the draft and evaluating is, do you need a defensive tackle or the defensive tackle? And that's the part that's really hard.
Stovey says, no way Ricky was a need at 31.
Look, I'm not going to say what was on their board. I thought, remember that those first few minutes where we thought we got Cooper DeJean?
I did.
How happy we were. And I feel bad because I was doing it live in Detroit, and Cooper DeJean is leaked by Mike Silver, and we all go nuts because we're excited. And then we were like, oh, it's Ricky Pearsall. And we shouldn't have that reaction. I think we would have looked at that draft pick a lot different if it just comes out right away. We would have just been like, really? We would have had to start to think about it. But we all got excited about Cooper DeJean, and then they just took it away from us.
I was hyped off Cooper.
Right,
I was like,
right. Right. I was like, oh my God. I was like, Cooper DeJean, they did it, those maniacs. And then you look and you're like, Ricky Pearsall.
Dude, I had like 2,000 people on the stream, and I'm like, Cooper DeJean.
Yeah. I was in the media room, in the draft media room, and it came out early, and we're just like, yes. And me and Andrew on the show, I'm like, yes. Oh my God, I love this pick. And then we're like, oh, Ricky Pearsall, man.
Oh, but yeah, no, it pivoted to like, oh, I wasn't expecting that at all. It was over guys like Ladd McConkey and guys that were considered to be
A.D. Mitchell, other guys, right? Like, and it just, I was just like,
Bills wide receiver,
could have had Keon Coleman, Ladd, what was the other one I just said? What's his name? A.D. Mitchell. Yeah, I just was like, damn it. And the reason that we had that reaction was because we thought we got Cooper DeJean. And I think we would have still had to process the Ricky Pearsall pick if Mike Silver would have been like Ricky Pearsall from Florida.
Yeah, no, we would have. But it would have been a more organic reaction.
Right. Like, we would have just been like, okay, now we've got to find a way to justify this instead of like, oh no. And I feel bad. That's not Ricky.
Quarterback in the future. He's a returner. He can do all.
And he's a stud. And he's a stud. And he's a stud. Look at what Fangio and that secondary is doing. They've got the exciting whites. Him and Reed Blankenship. They are looking good, man. So that's the other part. It's like if Cooper DeJean went out there and he just wasn't hooping, then we could probably feel a little bit better about it. But he's out there hooping, and it's like, damn it, man. That really could have helped us out a lot. But yeah.
He's balling. We ended up getting Renardo. Comes out in the wash, right? Because I think we're happy with what Renardo turned into. And, Renardo's a draft crush of mine, so it's really easy to get over that. But, yeah, that was one of the more wild draft moments. I would say that's up there with when they drafted Kinlaw, because I did not.
Oh yeah.
I was like, we're drafting CeeDee Lamb. My dream is happening.
Yeah.
The CeeDee Lamb hive is buzzing. We're getting my guy. I can't believe it. The Raiders passed on CeeDee Lamb for Henry Ruggs. He's in our lap. Oh, we traded back. Oh, they took an offensive lineman. We're really going to get CeeDee Lamb and picks. It's happening. Javon Kinlaw. I went, oh my God.
Mm-hmm.
I felt like I got punched in the gut.
Yeah. That yeah. That's the same draft that they got Trent in, right?
Yes.
On day 2.
We found out that they traded for Trent, and then right after that, it was announced Staley retired. So it was a whirlwind draft.
So you get Kinlaw and you get Ayuk in that first round, right? And then you end up with Trent, and he's your starting left tackle, and we're like, oh wow, like we've got the best left tackle in the world. But if you do it over again and you get Tristan Wirfs and you start him at left tackle, you can still get Ayuk. And then, I love Trent, but, Wirfs would have been cheaper for a little bit longer, and then we would have had to wind up paying him anyway. So,
yeah, it's always fun to go back and relive our draft memories.
Yeah.
Because, hey, the 49ers got 11 picks coming up.
Yeah.
And they could get more with comp picks. So they should be busy.
That's the thing is the draft process. It's about checking your notes. It's about looking back on who you liked and and you should take a victory lap every time you like a player who's very good. You should, because
it's how many players draft fun,
right? But how many players have we looked at and said, "Oh, that's a surefire guy, and that's my guy," and I still believe Curtis Samuel's going to break out one of these days. Like, so then you go back and you look at your thoughts and
I'm still waiting for Dante Moncrief, Jason. I've been waiting
Dante
for
Moncrief is crazy.
Oh
my God.
Boy, I was so hyped on him.
Don't worry. Curtis Samuel, 8th year breakout on the way. Don't worry about it. It's definitely going to happen. But yeah, I think that's what makes the draft process so fun. And again, that's why I'm so excited. And not excited to get into the offseason stuff. Obviously, I want the 49ers playing football games deep into January. That's probably the most fun part of doing this whole content creation thing. But I'm excited to see how the 49ers go about this and how they retool and restock this cupboard. How do they do it? Is it a mixture of free agents and draft? Do they go all in on the draft? Are these guys going to start right away? This is what makes this so intriguing, because they can do so many things. They're not set into doing one thing. One thing I think we all want to see from the 49ers, we just want to see them get younger and faster, because it looks like this season they're just running in mud. Almost everybody. Everything looks slow. Everything looks tough. Everything looks hard. We need to get younger, faster, and you need to get cheaper, younger, impact talent. So I think that's really what – I'm not telling you that that's what you need to do, and if you don't do it, it's a failure, but I would be really upset if this team didn't get faster at almost any position that they try to draft.
Yeah, this season has absolutely sucked for sure, and it's crazy that we still actually have 3 weeks left to go in this season, because it feels like the offseason is already here. But the beauty of this offseason is this is the first real time we can dig our teeth into draft season, into free agency, the entire way. And we have the draft capital. We have a ton of free agents. It's going to be fun in regards to, what we like to do, put our, pretend GM caps on and talk about all the players that we want to see added and subtracted and this, that, and the other thing. It's going to be the first time since 21 that we've actually been able to really mess around with that. And obviously they traded that. I think it was a Zach Wilson's pro day. I remember that. That was fun. But up until that point, we were cooking with all the different ideas, all the first round draft picks. And that's what's the fun part about the free agency or the off season, when you don't have the opportunity to go to the playoffs, is you really get to dig your teeth into all the potential ways that you can improve this team and get to know those players before they come on board. So with that being said, I think we've covered offense, defense, kind of what we think, who should play, who shouldn't play. Anything in that regard that you want to tackle that maybe we skimmed over?
No, I mean, I just again the defense has kind of taken a different bit of turn because of the way Hufanga's impacted this defense off the bat. Coming right back, that it kind of just he almost felt like an afterthought, and now it feels like how can you let him go now at this point? And that's why when you watch guys and you're like, well, why are they returning? Why are they returning when there's not much to play for? Obviously, that was a must-win game. But these guys still got to build their resume. These guys still got to show their value. And that's why they're never going to stop playing. And I respect it. I think back to 2020. The 49ers were done. George Kittle says, I'm a football player. I'm here to play football. You want that mindset. Obviously, we have this issue with Devondre Campbell, happening. You don't want guys like that, quitters, right? So there's going to be guys that you're seeing that you're just like, well, why are they coming back? It doesn't really matter. You shouldn't be trying to win games. No. I want football players. I want guys who are going to go out there and lay it on the line all the time, provided it's smart. Now, the one thing I'll say is if Fred Warner has a fractured ankle, let's have him sit. Let's have him sit. Like, Fred, we love you, man. And we know you want to play. And I know you want to play. You want to get out there and hit somebody. But let's take these 3 games off and let's fix your fractured ankle and get you ready for next season. Dre Greenlaw obviously has something to prove because he wants to show everybody that the Achilles, which after 30 snaps, color me satisfied. I know that he's fine.
We're all happy. We're all good.
Like, I don't need anything else from him.
Sign him now.
I don't know if anybody I don't know if anybody or anything like that needs to see more. I don't. 30 snaps, I'm good. That man was everywhere. So
he was
the thing defense. Is right. So Fred, we know what you are. Fred, please just chill out and rest. Hold on. Great One says, I don't know if it was Brad or some moderator, but I was blocked on his channel for no. Oh, damn, you got people blocking people on your channel. Either way, Great One. I don't know, man. But Fred, please, you don't have to play anymore. It's fine. You can sit. I understand exactly why Hufanga's playing. I understand exactly why Mooney wants to get out there because he's playing for a contract. I understand exactly why Greenlaw wants to get there because he wants to show everybody that he can still play. I get all that. And obviously, when we talk about playing the kids, you can't bench everybody. You can't because it's a 53-man roster. You can't just bench everybody. There's not a backup for everyone. But there are instances that I'd like to see. Deebo Samuel, you know what? The season hasn't gone your way. Let's scale back your reps. Let's see Ricky Pearsall there. And anything that you're gonna run for Deebo, run it for Pearsall. See what you've got. Because if you are looking to replace Deebo, because I think that if we were saying someone has to go, it's probably going to be Deebo on a post June 1 cut, unless there's a trade that somebody wants to facilitate to take on his entire contract, which I don't know if they'll do that. Then put him in that role. Put him in the role that you think that he's going to fill, which is Deebo's role. Now, you don't run the same Deebo plays for him, but whatever you're going to incorporate for him, whether it's a slant, whether it's one of those quick tunnel screens, whether it's something off of play action or something, run it with them and see what they've got. And again, I'm fine with rookie mistakes as long as they're made by rookies in the name of development. What I will not stand for is mistakes by veterans. I won't stand for that. That is something I will not stand for. If a rookie is struggling, dropping passes, everything, let him go through it. Let's see if he can fight through it. But when you're a vet, when you're a former All-Pro, I don't have patience for that. I really don't.
Yeah, no, I hear you. Dazzle says, can we sit Kittle so he can finally get surgery? I don't know.
I want him to get to his 1,000 yards, man. Get him the ball. He won't accept that. He just won't accept that. Also, if we're looking for something like to hang our hat on that's good about this season, then feed Kittle and make sure that he gets up there and he ends up top 1, 2, 3, whatever in certain categories, man. Because obviously Brock Bowers is running away with this shit because he's just catching every single pass for the Raiders, and so is Trey McBride. Right. Trey McBride just can't score. Funny how that works. The Raiders don't really have options, so they spam. Yeah, they force feed their tight end. The Cardinals are having issues with Marvin Harrison, so they force feed their tight end. See how that works? And it's not a bad idea because other teams do it. And with the way Kittle's been playing, I think he deserves to get 1,000 yards. I think he deserves to add to his accolades. And there's no way that you're going to get him off the field without some sort of serious injury.
Jason, so I've thought this all year. I haven't said it all that often, but I absolutely believe that this is a contract year for George Kittle.
It is. Bring him back.
So he's under contract next year.
Yeah.
Keep in mind though, it's a final year of his deal,
Mhm.
and he has a $22 million cap hit. So
Yeah.
if the San Francisco 49ers were to extend him and give him a raise, they can push the cap, that $22 million cap hit out and spread it over years. And then that would mean that Kittle most likely retires a 49er.
So this isn't my thought. The great Brian Peacock that I do a show with called Peacock and Aponte, we do every week, said this. Kittle's contract would be worth it if he was just a blocker. Kittle's contract would be worth it if he was just a receiver. Kittle does both. Absolutely 100%. And putting money into tight end is 100% smart. Now,
especially in this offense.
What I want Kyle Shanahan to do is, if Kittle's cooking, throw him the damn football over and over until they stop it. Please. Yes.
Please.
Yes. I don't understand.
Stop
the guy's been playing
from 85.
He's been playing like a man possessed, beating everybody, doing everything. Been the guy that literally, without his red zone production, this red zone offense would be even further up Doodoo Creek. And you don't want to force feed. There's not a game in 2024 that I should see any other 49er with more targets than George Kittle. Other teams do it. May not lead to success, but it's a smart thing to do because they have their best player at tight end. And it's just something that when we see it in glimpses against Chicago, against certain teams where we're like, there it is, look at him. And then you go completely away from him because you want to throw the ball 7, 8, 9 times to Juwan Jennings and Deebo Samuel.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm not opposed to that. More Kittle, I think, would be better, for sure. Brian says, I did not foresee Tig's struggles.
Me neither.
I don't think either of us saw it.
Me
I think
neither.
especially with the camp that he had, I think we both were like, yeah, we're big Tig guys. So we were rooting for it. And it just was an unfortunate season.
I'll say this. The kid has the makeup to bounce back.
I agree.
The mental makeup. Will he is something completely different. But the kid is mature enough and understands, because even when he got sent to the bench, when Hufanga came back, he didn't pout. When he got his opportunity again against the Rams, he actually played well, right? He played better. Yeah. And a lot of that has to do with how good Hufanga is at calling out coverages and the way that he directs things and the energy he brings. If there's anybody who can come out of it, it's Tig. But yeah, I didn't see that coming either. I felt like it was almost low-hanging fruit to say that Tig was going to be the breakout player on defense for the Niners. I thought it was me just being easy and not even really looking deeper into it. But unfortunately, this is the game. This is how it goes sometimes.
And then it sparked like the early conversation of like, yeah, we don't need Talanoa. Like, we got Tig. Oh, look at Malik. Malik's balling. Mm-hmm. We're good. We got our safeties of the future. And then all season we're like, oh, their defense isn't playing very well. And then boom, you put in Talanoa Hufanga. You're like, oh, all of a sudden, way less communication errors, way less issues. Then you put Drake Greenlaw in there. Boom. Oh, all of a sudden, we look like a defense again, at least in some instances, not all instances. There's still some things to clean up. But Tig struggling this year. I thought he was going to take a step forward for sure. But I think both you and I, like you said, he's made of the right stuff. So I don't think we're worried about that aspect of it. We just want to, I don't know, almost still feels like the game's moving a little too fast for him.
It is. And he's thinking, and he's not reacting. Make sure you get to all the super chats, but I've got a really good topic to lead the next one off. So
I've been hoarding this super chat, Jason.
Go ahead,
because it's been the one that's been dominating the Twitter sphere.
Okay, hold on. All right, before this one, we'll save this one. We'll save this one for the end because it's the big discussion. Okay,
right. That's what I was doing. I was bearing the lead.
Okay. So last season, the San Francisco 49ers get within plays of winning the Super Bowl. And it felt like the 49ers defense and certain defensive players kind of threw Steve Wilks under the bus. Diamador Lenore was like, I was telling him they didn't want to do this and this and this. And other guys were like, look, I don't think we were put in right positions. Now, we've got Nick Bosa coming out and saying, I like what we're doing. I want to run it back with Nick Sorensen. And I find that very interesting because of the responses to Nick Sorensen this season from the fans, from other people, from critics. And I just find it funny that a team that right now is in this position defensively, they put up their best defensive game on Thursday, by the way, 4 field goals. And it was 2 coverage busts for the most part. One with Puka Nacua, and that was really on to Sean Gibson on the deep post over the middle. Mm-hmm. Sean Gibson sinks a little too far, and he should have been the top, the top safety. And then obviously it's man, Hufanga runs too far, and then boom, they bang the pass right on Colby Parkinson, which is just a complete coverage bust. Those are the 2 plays that you feel like everything else, the 49ers were absolutely clamps in that game. But I do find it interesting that the team really got close to winning a Super Bowl, and they all turned around and were like, hey, man, Steve Wilks, I don't like it. And this team now is like, well, let's run it back, man. I think he's good. And there's so much pushback. I've gotten people that have threatened me in comments, that have threatened me on Instagram, because at times during games, I say, hey, Nick Sorensen wasn't so bad. I don't know why you guys think your takes are dog shit. Rah, 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 rah. Like this one guy, I literally blocked him from my comments. He goes into my Instagram and he's yelling at me even more. And they're like, and it's the same thing. But I just find it funny that the team came within plays of the Super Bowl and basically begged for Steve Wilks to go. And now this team has played the way that it's played. And it sounds like he's getting a vote of confidence from their best defensive player, or one of them.
I think we touched on this topic about mid-year, and I still have the same kind of thought process. I feel like the scheme has been better, but the execution has been worse, if that makes sense. And, we always talk about that fine line. Well, who's responsible for execution, the player or the coach, right? And it's like, obviously the player is, because the coach can't go into their bodies and take them over and use them like a Madden player. So execution ultimately falls on to the player, but that brings up a broader conversation on how are they being prepared? How are they being coached up? What are they being taught in the meetings? What are they being told to see? Are they not seeing it? Are they not being taught it? So, but I would say that you lose Hargrave. I mean, clearly Leonard Floyd was kind of finding his footing early on. Yetur Gross-Matos was out. You don't have Dre Greenlaw. Charvarius Ward takes a step back for obvious reasons. You don't have Talanoa Hufanga. There was other things I think involved. You have Devondre Campbell out here being Devondre. I think there were more things that were more player related to the defensive struggles opposed to what we saw last year, because they had everyone. They had Mooney playing like close to an all-pro level, along with Diamador Lenore. And you had Talanoa Hufanga for the first portion of the season, but you had Gibson, and that duo was just solid, right? And then so Tig comes in and Gip was able to hold it down. And then you had the defensive line as it was. And, it felt like they had less talent issues last year, but more schematic issues last year. Whereas this year, I feel like the injuries and the talent discrepancy kind of showed up a little bit, and it changes the outcome. Like we know, like if you have lesser players on the field, your team isn't going to be that good. Look at Robert Saleh's first year when he's out here with a bunch of scrubs and the defense looked like terrible. Then you all of a sudden you get Defoe, Eric, Bosa, and D, and then we're going to the Super Bowl with this defense. That was the only major change, really.
Good point.
And so,
by the way, and I don't mean to cut you off, Bosa said the same thing about D'Amico. where he said like after D'Amico's first years when he really, really got into it. Now we don't know if he's going to reach the heights of those guys, but I thought it was interesting that he brought that up because it is the first year thing. The problem is that him learning on the fly and doing all this during a Super Bowl year probably doesn't lend to patience from the fan base. I'm sorry, keep going, though, Brad.
Yeah, no, but you get the point. Is that in mid-season, I was like, I'm happier with Sorensen's scheme than I was with D'Amico. Or not D'Amico. I love
Saleh.
D'Amico. With Wilkes.
Well,
That's
Wilkes.
the
Okay,
one.
okay.
Wilkes was a head scratcher, was
Mm-hmm.
frustrating. Playing off zone coverage or off man coverage
9 yards.
at 9 yards depth when the offense just needed 4 yards
Mm-hmm.
for a first down and repeat.
Zero blitz at the half against Minnesota.
Yeah, like literally I was like, the 49ers are giving away free first downs like they're Halloween candy. I don't understand it. I'm not a defensive guy, so I can't rationalize it.
Mhm.
I just see it and I'm like, this doesn't look right.
Mhm.
But so I don't see those mistakes as much this year. And I think he has a better embodiment of what they're trying to do. And I just think that the injuries, the issues that they were having, it just all played a perfect role. And, to the defensive credit, I feel like the defense in the second half of the year has played better than the first half.
Of course.
So, but unfortunately, the offense started playing worse in the second half and they just haven't been aligned. And
Right.
so I agree with you. I think Nick Sorensen's been okay. I don't think it's been to the level of Wilkes' disaster.
So Kyle Shanahan has to directly come out last season and talk about Steve Wilkes coming down and be in tandem with him and everything. Pass rush not married to the secondary. We heard all those things last year. And for as much as people have complained about Sorensen, Kyle said, I think he's doing a great job. Nick Bosa says, I would love to have him back.
Yeah.
Amendola North's like, I love the secondary. Like, isn't it crazy? Yeah, I think, look, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but it sounds like Nick Sorensen is going to be a defensive coordinator next year, guys. And
you're ready.
And just prepare yourself. Like, I know a lot of you don't like this idea, but from everything they're saying, it felt like the Wilkes breakup was happening during the season. This one feels like they're letting you know right now, he'll be back, and we actually think he's going to be better next year now if they reload this defense and they bring guys back. Funny how, Hufanga and Greenlaw coming back, all of a sudden the defense is back to just giving up 4 field goals. There's a little bit to that as well, too. Exactly. I just think maybe, we jumped a little the gun a little bit here, like with Sorensen.
I think we talked about it in the beginning of the year. We wanted to fire Saul in his first year. We wanted to fire D'Amico after 3 games. It's just how it goes. And it just feels like defensive coordinators have a little harder of a time like acclimating because I think they're more reactive than they are proactive like offenses are. So they got to get into like a rhythm of like, all right, we can do this, we can do that, and this is how we're going to react to, these looks, this formation, this running back, this star white. Like they get into a rhythm like, all right, we know what we're doing now. Like we got to feel. And I think it's a little bit different where offenses is more surgical, right?
Yeah.
They're just more defined, and where defense is just reacting to everything. Read and react. So,
and the other thing is 2020, 2021, D'Amico. 2022, 2020, like you're going on to, if you move away from Sorensen, you're going to how many coordinators in how many years? Even if, hold on,
you're going to do this again.
Right. And even if, what's crazy about it is you can talk about the different names in terms of like who's there, but Sorensen was brought here to kind of just run the same scheme. Like Sorensen didn't overhaul the defense. It was kind of just, here's the scheme, oversee it and run it. Not, I'm coming in and I'm changing everything. So it's not necessarily the overhauling of it because that's not what's happening. It's just a different play caller. And then what you judge him on is adjustments and everything else. So that's really where the difference is. And I do think that Sorensen is a little overhated, even if people are gonna send me nasty DMs on Instagram or whatever. Like, I'm
Our fan
sorry.
base, they just want to see if we're not operating at an elite level, fire everyone, get rid of everyone,
Right.
send everyone, banish everyone to the shadow realm. It is
Yeah.
what it is. So I agree. My assessment, and like I said, I've seen it improving over the year. So I'm a body of work guy. I don't make snap judgments off 3 games. I want to give it time, let it breathe. Let's see adjustments. Can they improve, get better? Okay, we're seeing it. All right, that's what we need. And so with Sorensen, he's proven that. And the fact that he's getting a vote of confidence should be enough to start to rationalize that the 49ers aren't going to be going after a new defensive coordinator this year. They shouldn't. I don't think they should. I think they should if you try to build some continuity.
Right. If you get everybody back, you're able to bring back, Huff and Greenlaw, and you find that stud edge rusher, and then you retool this defensive line. You still need depth across it. I think Malik Collins has been very good at times. I think Yetur Gross-Matos is finally figuring it out right now, which is again, something that depth is depth until depth has to play. And then you start to see a little bit of cracks on all that stuff. But let's see one more shot, and with the idea that he's already done it for a year with high-end talent returning, who knows what you're going to see. And I think it would be foolish to base your assessment on a few games early in the season when the team wasn't executing, when the play calling wasn't as good. But I think he's going to be back.
Yeah. Sidebar to that, I really like Malik Collins. I didn't love I didn't love the idea of him starting at all at the beginning of the season.
Very good pickup this season.
He's way better
Very
than
good.
I thought. He's
20
phenomenal.
20 pressures on
Dude
Thursday,
is a
man.
Beast against one-on-one with guards. He's a dog.
And he'll be even better when the 49ers get him in a rotation. Yeah, like and keep him, make sure that like he's fresh. But you can go to the super chat now because everybody's here. Yeah, everybody's here for this.
The moment you have all been waiting for. Real OBJ CDT says, if Darnold and Purdy switch teams, would Darnold make the 49ers contenders? Would Purdy make the Vikings crumble? Some content creators seem to think so.
Can I
funny, I posed that question today on Twitter, and that
I don't pose questions on Twitter anymore because people don't know how to civilly speak and yell at you. Like I could again, Twitter is the only place that you could say, by my calculations, 2 + 2 = 4. And
you idiot.
You idiot. What do you mean 2 + 2 = 4? Get a load of this
stuff. Carry decimal over before it.
He's a cuck, man. I'm just like, what the hell does that have to do with anything, dude? Anyway. All right. So let's start with this question because it's loaded. It's loaded. If Darnold and Purdy switch teams, would Darnold make the 49ers contenders? The answer is no. And here's why. Despite the better arm, Sam Darnold would be seeing the pressure that Brock Purdy has been seeing on Thursday Night Football, and he is more prone to make more mistakes and play worse. The Vikings offensive line for large parts has been very good. Now, I want to say this because this is all started because of Brian Baldinger. But while I disagree with the idea of just saying flip him and him, I believe that he meant from a money standpoint.
It was a hypothetical based on Brock getting top 5. What would you do?
So,
and he's like, well, you want to pay Brock top 5?
Right. If you're comfortable, if you feel that you're comfortable with Brock getting 60 and you can get Darnold, who I think has made him a ton of money. I don't himself a ton of money. I don't think that he should take a discount anywhere. Like he needs to jump on this now. I don't think his
keep saying the Baker deal. Baker
40.
No,
40.
I think he's.
Yeah,
I think he might be Cousins range.
What's funny is Baker, Darnold, same draft class, kind of just really, really like, are the reason that people take shots on first round quarterbacks. So to start this off, if Darnold and Purdy switch teams, does Darnold make the 49ers contender? Alexa, I'm cooking. Stop. Darnold doesn't make the 49ers contenders this year. Would Purdy make the Vikings crumble? No. You know why? Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, Kevin O'Connell's a really, really good really good coach and coordinator. A very good coach and coordinator. And their offensive line's better. And Aaron Jones is good. And their defense is better. So, would Darnold make the 49ers contenders? No. Would Purdy make the Vikings crumble? No. Absolutely not. All of this stuff needs to be evaluated with a full scope of what's going on. Now, if your thought process is, well, I don't know if I want to be able to pay Brock Purdy that amount of money if he can't lift this team to victories when things aren't perfect. That's fine, maybe. That's fine if you want to evaluate it on wins added. But Sam Darnold's not going to add wins to the 49ers, not this year. Not this year. So if you're talking about switching places, Purdy wouldn't make them crumble. Everything that they've built over there with Kevin O'Connell and the way that they've been able to run that offense is run the football, short passes, get the ball in the hands of your guys. But the one thing that Darnold has that lifts it up a little bit is he has the ability to hit those deeper passes down the field. As you see, Jordan Addison's going crazy, so is Justin Jefferson.
Yep.
But the idea that flipping both of them would switch their fates, I vehemently push back on, and I completely disagree on. I think that is just another way for people to kind of tear down Brock. And I don't like it. Without evaluating both sides of the circumstances, nah, man, come on.
Yeah, no, that's why it's a ridiculous argument, because if Brock Purdy is in that situation, like Jason, how much have we talked about this year the lack of complementary football?
Mm-hmm.
That plays into both offense and defense being successful. If your defense isn't getting off the field and they're on the field for long ass drives after long ass drives that put you in behind the eight ball, that changes the philosophy of the offense. That changes the structure of the offense. It changes how you have to think, opposed to having an offense that has all the weapons, all the pieces functionally moving well, moving up and down the field, you're scoring points. Then guess what? You have one of the top defenses in the leagues with one of the best defensive coordinators who put the 49ers offense in an absolute shambles week 2.
Everyone else too, basically. I mean, aside from like the Lions.
Exactly. And so you have that continuity. You have the ability to be like, all right, well, we go 3 and out this drive. We're going to be okay because we're going to get the ball right back because our defense is going to give it to us. The 49ers haven't played they played their first semblance of complementary football week 14 versus the Bears, Jason. Week 14. And that's not even accounting for all the injuries, all the guys gone, the offensive line struggles, defensive coordinators seemingly knowing every single play the 49ers are going to run and exploiting their pressures and coverages. And you think that putting Sam Darnold, the I'm seeing ghost guy, in this situation with the San Francisco 49ers that I watch every week on film and see overload blitz after overload blitz after overload blitz, you think he's going to take care of the football? Oh, no. Oh, no. He's going to see those 2 free rushers that are going to be in his lap in less than 1.5 seconds. He's going, throwing it. Oh, guess what? We don't have separators. So who's catching the ball?
Exactly.
Debo? He's going up for a one-on-one? Is he mossing someone?
Is the throw to Jennings that was the interception on Thursday? Does that get thrown there? Like, does it get to the right spot because there was no separation there? You lose Brandon Ayuk for the whole season,
and Brock was about to get hit.
Right. So that's the thing: is Sam Darnold coming over here? You might hit 1 or 2 of those deeper passes, but the things that Brock exceeds at, he can't exceed at. And if Brock was with the Vikings, they would be fine. And you know what's really cool? Getting into the Vikings defense and how they really just make things difficult. Everyone talks like, oh, they're exotic or they're okay. So let's get into that, right? Showing 7 at the line and then just dropping 4 out of there and then rushing 3. And then it looks like in 1 second, it looks like cover 3, but it's really palms coverage, which is basically a triangle that is just all the way around the wide receiver, and you have no one to throw the football to. And by the time that you figure out who you need to get the ball to, Van Ginkel's on your back and jumping and dropping you. Like, This is the stuff that when everyone says, hey, the Vikings defense is this, like watching them and how they disguise things, it's not just dropping guys into coverage. It's showing you a cover 3 look that is really palms coverage. And what I mean by that is the palms coverage is essentially you've got 2 underneath corners and a safety up top that basically make a triangle, and it takes away almost an entire side of the field. And that's something that you didn't see pre-snap. You saw it post-snap. And now you've got to hurry, and figure out what it is. And by the time you figure out to get to this one,
the offensive line.
They're on you. They're on you. They're on you. So that's the stuff like watching their defense and saying, okay, Brian Flores is very good at what he does. Brian Flores is a master at what he does.
I think
and what
Brian Flores gave the entire league the blueprint
how 100%.
to destroy the 49ers offense.
And everybody else, essentially, right? Like, they don't really give up points.
Bro, I've never seen, remember we talked about that. We're like, oh, did he give them? And to your point, and I totally agree with, well, you got to have the dogs to be able to execute it. Mm-hmm. So there are some teams that they would try to do it, but they weren't able to execute it. But the teams that had the dogs, oh, they cooked the 49ers. Mm-hmm. They absolutely, like, I'm talking about the reason why the sack numbers don't look crazy for the 49ers is because Brock Purdy got the ball out of his hands quickly, and he didn't put it into harm's way. Sometimes it did. Sometimes it got picked, right? Sometimes we made we wish we didn't have that one. But when you look at the circumstantial evidence and you see how much duress Brock Purdy had played under this season based on defenses having the read on the 49ers offensive line pass protection rules. And what did we find out this year? Brock Purdy ain't checking protections because the answer is built into the play. So let's dive into that. What does that mean? Brock Purdy has to see something pre-snap, Jason, which we know is disguised to look like something else. Within post-snap, it changes into a completely different look. The 49ers offensive line is out of balance. They have 2 free rushers, free, unblocked, sometimes up the middle. Based on this look, Brock has to process what he saw pre-snap to post-snap, free rusher in about a second and a half. And you think Sam, I'm seeing Ghost Darnold, would be able to withstand that pressure and elevate this offense? I'm sorry. I disagree 100%.
Let's take it a step further, too. We talk about complimentary football all the time. When are the Vikings down 2 scores, 3 scores that they need to win?
Right.
It rarely happens.
They control the game all the way through.
Every game they're in, every game is close. Every game is there. It never gets away. Now, it doesn't matter who the quarterback is. If you're down 2-3 scores and your offense becomes predictable, and now you're throwing the football a ton, it doesn't behoove any quarterback to do that. Sam Darnold has not been put in that position because their defense has kept games close, because they've made plays, because they've been able to control the clock, because they haven't made critical errors. That's a little bit of what the 49ers story is this season. Mm-hmm. When the 49ers defense plays well, the offense doesn't play well. When the offense plays well, the defense doesn't play well. And when both play well, the special teams gives it away. And that's just who the 49ers are in 2024. And Sam Darnold's not changing that. No. He's not changing that for the 49ers and who they are. But Brock Purdy would be on schedule and in every single game with the Minnesota Vikings one way or another, and their defense has closers and they've been making plays all season. That is why they have the record that they have. It's not luck. It's not their schedule. They have 2 very good play callers. They play complementary football. They don't ask too much of Sam Darnold, and he's always in a good spot to make plays. And for the large part of this season, he has made the plays. But saying that you would switch Purdy over to the Vikings and saying that they would crumble, that is such an egregious over-the-top statement. I don't know who said it. It doesn't really matter.
I haven't heard that part. I've heard the part where you put Sam on the 49ers and they're fine.
No,
they're fine.
No, the 49ers are not.
Where I'm like, that's just doesn't. We have too much data on Sam. Even watching Sam this year, you can see some of those things still apply where he gets a little, oh.
No, look, and the other thing is watching Sam this year, while this is clearly his best season in the NFL,
He's having a great year.
He's still got those throws in there that you're just like,
what
on earth was that? Yeah. Oh, it's there. It's not gone.
They're doing their best to scheme out the yips.
Yes.
But they have the pieces and the structure and the rhythm to keep him in structure. Because when Sam gets out of structure and starts having to be like what we're talking about, the overload problem that the 49ers have had all season, Sam would not be able to manage that situation because one pick turns into a snowball, into a second pick, into a third pick. His confidence is shot. So that's the other element that people aren't associating with this hypothetical. And it's a hypothetical. But again, we actually saw Sam play for the 49ers in a game with Debo, with Ayuk, and I didn't see anything that was like, oh yeah, this guy's better than Purdy.
Well, and again, you have to give credit to Kevin O'Connell. I mean, the idea that Sam was going to
he's great coach.
And he's the new flavor of the week because now everybody's like, oh, I like Kevin O'Connell as a better coach than Kyle Shanahan. But here's the thing. What I give Kevin O'Connell credit for is Sam Darnold was brought in as sort of an insurance policy if they weren't ready to go with J.J. McCarthy. And I think in their heart of hearts, they didn't believe we're going to be 11-2 going into 13 games if Sam Darnold starts. But when J.J. McCarthy goes down and you have to pivot to Sam Darnold, the way that they've been able to masterfully work that offense and play to his strengths and not force him into bad spots is what you have to give Kevin O'Connell a ton of credit for. There are a lot of good coaches in the NFL. Funny enough, McVay, he's from that. Former quarterback as well, too, Kevin O'Connell. Huge tank. Remember when we met him at the combine? Guy's like 6'6". He's a stud. But that's the part that you have to give credit to. Situation matters. All of these things matter. All of these
matter,
things
Jason.
There's nuance. I'm turning into Vish, right? Like it's not black and white. Everything has to kind of be there. And there's also seasons for everyone in the league where everything clicks. And there's very little things, very small wrong things that go wrong. It happens. Everyone has a magic carpet dream season. Whether that's quarterbacks, whether that's coaches, whether that's entire teams and organizations. You get that magic carpet season where you can do no wrong. Every button you push works. Every time that you put in a player, he steps up. Every time that you've called a play, that works. So I'm not like just trying to discredit the Vikings, but we have to give credit to them for being able to identify how to get the most from Sam, save Sam from himself, put people around him, and have complementary football all the way through. The Vikings have just put together a season that teams aspire to put together on both sides of the football every single year. They just happen to put it together this year.
Yeah, and I would also have to add a lot of the conversations about Brock are based completely off recency bias because in the same light that we're talking about, all right, switch Sam in here. I think we're both in the same page that it would not go remotely close to what we've seen as it gone with Brock. And again, it hasn't been perfect with Brock. I'll be the first to say that this hasn't been Brock's best season. He hasn't seen it the same way in every instance. There have been games where he's been on fire, and there's been games where he's looking a little gun shy. So I think we've seen it both ways for Brock this season. But if you really go through the schedule, you look at week 1 against the Jets, he was cooking. Week 2 is when the Vikings exposed their game plan, and absolutely he had no shot at getting the ball off anywhere, just was out of sort. Week 3 against the Rams, he was cooking. Him and Juwan, 3 touchdowns. Ronnie Bell has that drop. There was no complimentary football to be found. They had a
field goal, bad special teams.
Exactly. They didn't lose that game because of the offense, specifically Brock. They lost it because of other elements. But to me, they weren't playing complimentary football. So you go to week 4 against the Patriots. we're talking about week 4 after the Patriots. This is the best we've ever seen Brock play. He's doing it with his legs. He's making throws downfield. George Kittle in the corner of the end zone in triple coverage, making a beautiful catch, only where George could get it. Oh, look at Brock. And then week 5 against the Cardinals wasn't the best, but it wasn't all on Brock. Yes, was he contributing to the tipped pass that turned into an interception? Phenomenal play by the defensive tackle. I watched it. He literally watched Brock and mirrored Brock. Brock tried to skirt him. He got right into the passing lane, knocked it down. Great play by the defensive tackle. And then overload blitz. He gets hit, doesn't see the free rusher because they can't change the protection. Ball flies up in the air, gets intercepted. Week 6 against Seattle, we're like, oh, yeah, he cooks. You go down the list, Chiefs got obliterated. Looked like a shell. The entire team looked like a shell of themselves, but they come back against the Cowboys. You go on and on and on. You really come down to it. The games where he didn't play like Brock would typically play, week 2 against the Vikings, week 7 against the Chiefs, week 13 against the Bills, week 15 against the Rams. 2 out of those 4 games came in insane weather conditions. We get it. He doesn't play well in weather conditions. It's one thing that we will have to, keep in consideration regarding Brock Purdy as a quarterback. But if we're really going to objectively go through this season, they didn't lose against Seattle week 11 because he's not playing Geno. He's not on the defense, letting Geno Smith drive all the way down the field. Like, there's so many different elements to this year that we look at that throw against the Rams and you look at the season go up in flames. You're like, oh, Brock made a terrible throw. Yeah, it wasn't a good throw. It was a bad pick. You want to be smarter there. You want to, in a perfect environment, check it down. But I just feel like this whole season has just been a just massive overreaction based on, like, everyone's treating each game as its own individual season for Brock. And it's like, oh, this is who Brock is this game. He's the greatest. Oh, now he sucks this game because it's been up and down all year like this. So you watch every individual game and it goes up. Oh, he's great. Oh, he's terrible. Oh, he's great. Oh, he's terrible. And it's just like body of work, boil it down. It just hasn't been a good year for everyone on this team. But I would say that Brock has done more with less in a lot of circumstances than I could say that Sam Darnold could do. And I think that's not even up for debate.
Yeah, and I think, and I'm looking at the comment, Brock was great at the time because of the extraordinary value. And again, what you're investing in the quarterback position and what you're getting, less than $1 million, and you're getting yourself a guy who's top 5 in efficiency, now, no matter what he gets paid, his evaluation process is going to change from bargain to I expect you at this pay rate to lift. What I mean by that is, and I don't know what the contract's going to be. I still believe that Brock Purdy is going to be paid. And I don't think he's going to get 60. I don't think they will give him 60. I think the way that they're going to structure all of this is going to be, a little bit further out, and the money is just going to be staggered in a different way. You talked about it with Nick Bosa, I believe, or if it was somebody else, what is like $25 million 1 year, $22 million, which is nothing. Then it'll be like $42 million 3 years down the line. That's when you start paying him like real quarterback money.
Or you just keep restructuring.
Right. And restructuring. Right.
Yeah. Just keep restructuring.
The thing is, if you're going to start making that kind of money, the top end money, it means that you're going to have to lose people either on the offensive or defensive side of the ball. And what you're expected to do as the quarterback that is taking up that much cap space, as the quarterback that makes that much money, is cover up whatever else we've got going on. If our defense takes a step back, we need the offense to go up. If you're missing offensive weapons, we need you to lift a little bit more. And I don't think that's necessarily fair with Brock. And I don't think that that's the way that you should be evaluating him. But with the money comes the expectations. And whether I believe that that's fair or not doesn't change how it's going to be looked at. So I'm looking at it this way. I don't know what he's going to get. I think the young man is going to try to get every single dollar that he can. I think it would be a little bit better if the 49ers said, okay, if you want this certain amount of money, and start this process right after the season's over. That's another thing. Don't mess around.
Start it right now.
I mean, you could start it right now. You could start it right now. But if you're looking at this APY, and this is the way that you look at it, how does Brock Purdy not look at what Trevor Lawrence, Tua Tagovailoa, Kyler Murray, Deshaun Watson, Kirk Cousins? How does he look at any of those guys? Even Jordan Love. Yeah, Dak Prescott. How does he look at any of those guys and say, well, I'm better. I've done more than him. I've done more than him. We have similar roles in the offense. I've done more than him.
I've knocked Dak Prescott out of the playoffs 2 times.
Right. Jordan Love, I knocked him out last year. Trevor Lawrence,
Jared Goff
hasn't sniffed anything.
Enjoy Cancun.
Tua Tagovailoa, like you're looking at those guys and you're looking at Miami, and it's funny because Miami's playing San Francisco and they mirror each other in so many ways going into this game. They're all there. It's just so funny. The parallels are hilarious, like right now with those two teams. But when you start to make this money, and if you're Brock Purdy and you look around and you look at these guys that you say, I've done this, I've done that, they haven't. I don't blame you for looking at that amount of money. I think the issue isn't with what Brock wants. It's with what others have gotten and their market. And
Bingo.
that's it. It's the market that you're more upset about than what Brock's is. And as long as it continues to climb, the more and more people are going to get paid. And quarterback is such a premium position. So when you say this, you say, okay, you want to move on from Brock? For who?
Yeah.
And it's got to be a sure bet.
Sam Darnold?
No. Kirk Cousins?
Sam Darnold for 45 opposed to Brock for 55? What you take?
Kirk Cousins?
Hell no.
Look, I'm not saying I want Kirk Cousins, but as long as the idea that Kirk Cousins could be out there, it's going to be a talking point.
We're already going to be a talking point. We got linked to Aaron Rodgers this morning by Jeremy Fowler.
Right. So it's
get ready to learn ayahuasca, pal.
Get ready to learn non-vaccinations. The thing is
immunization, pal.
Look, I've been immunized. So the issue is less about what you think that Brock deserves and him comparing himself to people that haven't done what he's been able to do. So the issue is more of the market than anything. And the problem is everyone says, don't pay him that much, but you don't have a guaranteed plan behind it.
Right.
And that's the hard part.
Exactly. And again, I've said it, and it's going to be a continued talking point because everyone just keeps saying whatever they want to say about this. But that is what's going to determine what Brock Purdy gets paid, not what we think, not what we hope, not hoping that, if we got this deal done 2 years ago, Jason, we would be on cloud 9 because the market was not here. He would have gotten a deal, I don't know, probably in the mid 30s, which would have been high at that time. And then after all these contracts get paid out, we're like, oh, he's kind of bottom of the league in APY. Yeah. And so that's really what it is. It's like, you got to be mad at the inflation of the market. Like Brock Purdy can't help that he's proven that he's better than Trevor Lawrence in 2.5 years and Tua in 2.5 years. And, Jared Goff, debatable. Jared Goff's been playing really well.
He's been playing really well.
But like Kyler Murray, Kirk Cousins for sure. Like
Deshaun Watson?
Deshaun Watson is trash. Like, so, and the guys who are really, really good in that elite status, Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes, and Josh Allen, they got paid a while ago, and the market has kept rising. And so when those guys are back up, they're going to completely shatter this. Mm-hmm. That's why I'm like, man, I wish Josh Allen could get paid now so he can get paid $75 million APY and make this bracket look normal, because it looks so skewed, right? Who really thinks that Trevor Lawrence is worth the top 4th earning quarterback according to APY? Like, obviously there's so many other factors in regards to guaranteed money, contract structure, total value. Those are the things that really matter. But when it's discussed, we talk the average. So I don't know. I just think people have a really hard time discerning that the market is the market. And I keep trying to remind everyone, Jason, that look at what happened with Brandon Ayuk. At one point, they could have had him at 26,
Mm-hmm.
but they waited. And what happened? Everyone got paid, and his price went not because he just was like, you know what? I'm asking for more. No, because when you slot him and compare his resume against Devontae Smith and Amon-Ra St. Brown and Jalen Waddle, just like we're talking about Brock, he slots there. That's why he got 30, because he slots there based on perceived ability and talent. So with Brock, same thing applies. We can argue till we're blue in the face. I would love to pay Brock $30 million APY. Like, that would be great. And we could do all the things that we want to do, but that's just not how it works. It's not the reality of business in the NFL. So will he get 60? My opinion is they're probably going to start there. That's probably the starting number for his representatives. Is that where they finish? I don't know. I think they're going to be somewhat creative with the structuring of it, which might ease some of the APY groaning right now. But I think overall, I think he very well could be slotted between that 55 to 60.
And I think the negotiations have already started, but they're starting in the media. So
yes, I agree.
So Tom Pelissero comes out and says,
Yeah,
60 M's, 60 M's, and we're starting. And 49ers employee Greg Papa, almost the same day,
on a bit of a tour.
Yeah, almost on the same day, immediately refutes that. Now, why would he do that, Brad?
Why would he?
Why would he do that? What's going on in Santa Clara?
What connections does Greg Papa has? Who is he?
Well, let's talk about that.
Who is that guy?
So last year, Greg Papa was the one that was saying Sam Darnold is playing incredible, and there's no way that I think that Trey Lance is going to stick around or anything like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Was he wrong?
Nope.
Okay. So you've got one person who is coming out for the agent, Pelissero, because that's all those national guys have. They have the agents. Sometimes they have people in the building, but this is them going to him, drop that as an agent. And Greg Papa, speaking for the 49ers, because he does all his work in all 49ers gear, and he comes out and says, no, I don't think he's going to get 50, almost making a statement for the team. The negotiations have started, and I can't believe this, Brad. Last offseason, all we said was just like, oh, isn't this blissful? Isn't this awesome? We don't have to worry about anything.
No,
and
drama.
Time is a flat circle. And because the 49ers are basically eliminated from the playoffs, the talk has accelerated. And it's happening 3 weeks before the season's over. Buckle up. Hold on to your butts. Get ready to hear Kirk Cousins and Aaron Rodgers and this guy. They're all going to be used as leverage in this negotiation.
Jason, I won't be surprised if the 49ers actually add one of those for leverage.
Yes. They're using those names, and you're hearing those names. That is leverage. That is 100% leverage.
If there is a threat of Brock holding out, they will absolutely say, all right, then we're going to actually bring him in. They brought in Sam Darnold. They almost brought in Tom Brady. I think everyone forgets that in 2023.
They called him. They even after Brock was good. Yeah. Okay.
They tried to. So let's not pretend that, it's
buckle up, guys.
Just get ready. It's going to
get ready.
Hey, we're going to have a lot to talk about, Jason, this off.
Yes, we are. I think we got some good super chats in here too. Let's go.
Let's get to them. Why we keep saying wins aren't a quarterback stat, but in the same vein, want to pay Brock Purdy for wins. This year has been when a litmus for what he is. Brock has no deep ball and no it factor. You don't want to pay him market. He's Jimmy G-ish. Woo! Ooh, Sean coming in off the top rope. I like the take though. Stand on it.
What I think he means is, and I think there's no real pushback on this, is the top end guys, and Josh Allen's about to get 70 M's whenever it's up because he's probably going to win Super Bowl. That's what I was saying. I mean, he's probably going to win the MVP. I'm sorry. They're not going to win the Super Bowl.
Who's winning the Super Bowl?
I don't know yet, but not them. But the thing is this is what I was talking about. When you start to make that amount of money, people are looking at you like you're that guy. And are you that guy?
Changes the entire perspective.
Your evaluation process goes out the window. It's no longer, oh, well, he was the last pick in the draft and he's doing well. It's
irrelevant. Once he gets paid, that Mr. Relevant
goes away.
Window. No one cares about that anymore.
You start to look at them and say, if you're going to make that amount of money and you're in that group with Allen, Burrow, Mahomes looks like a complete discount right now at this point, obviously, even though he hasn't been playing phenomenally, but their team just continues to win because of blood magic that they have. But I think that's the thing that Sean's saying is when you are going to make 55, 60 M's and you are going to be at the top, your evaluation process goes out of the window. Nobody remembers where you were drafted. No. Nobody cares where you were drafted because nobody says with Dak.
Draftism goes out the window.
Right. Like with Dak, they don't say, yeah, he was in the third round. Yeah, he's a third round pick. No. That's when your evaluation changes when you make that amount of money. So I don't disagree with that, Sean. That's my part with this is when he starts to make that money, the pressure to be that guy, even if you can't be that guy because of you're not playing to your strengths, is a problem. And you're going to hear that a ton. And that's what's going to cloud the entire evaluation process.
Well, let's face it, Jason. Whether we agree or not, Brock has absolutely been evaluated as a $60 million quarterback this year. What do we see?
Miami or Seahawks winning this year, Chris? Are we trolling or wait?
That's a troll. Don't give it any attention.
If it's a troll, it's a good one because it got me.
It clearly got you.
I just wanted to make sure that my eyes were like.
I was like, did I say something?
No. You're good. You're good.
I got something hanging. Like, oh shit.
You're good.
No.
Sorry.
No, but I don't even remember what the hell I was saying.
About the draftism going out the window and everything, and how much the price.
Oh, I was saying he has been evaluated as a $60 million quarterback this year.
Mm-hmm.
That is because after every game that he hasn't played well, it's like, well, this is why I can't pay him $60 million. Has it not? Mm-hmm. So he has been evaluated that way. The kind of like that shiny new, what a great story hasn't applied to this season.
Yeah.
So he has been evaluated much more harshly with much higher expectations through a much greater pressure lens. And I think that is also, a part of his struggles when he has struggled. If we're being bluntly honest, he looks like he's pressing at times. I really do.
Right, so Chris is doing a good job, man. I'm not gonna lie, he's doing a really good job. I'll give him that. But Sean, I agree 100. I agree 100%. I think a lot of people forget what the money aspect does to the evaluation process. It's no longer these are his strengths, these are his weaknesses. Is when you make $60 million, you better load up with a rocket arm. You better be able to make all those throws. The problem is this, and this is the last thing I'll say about Brock. When you do have the physical limitations at times that Brock has, i.e. velocity at times, i.e. deep ball accuracy, the one thing that has to remain constant and perfect is decision-making. Yes. If the decision-making is off, even by a second, you don't have the arm that Josh Allen has to rip that thing through the wind and get it there even when you're a step late. Anticipation, decision-making have to be almost perfect and flawless. That is how Brock Purdy succeeds. And that is why he has, put himself in this position. A lot of other people don't need to have their decision-making be as perfect because they have a physical gift to overcome that. And Brock doesn't. But Brock, there's different ways to skin a cat when you're successful as a quarterback in this league.
Absolutely.
And everyone needs somebody. So don't give me the whole weapons thing. Everyone needs somebody.
Yeah.
You know, you cried and cried for Josh Allen to get weapons. They went out and they traded for Amari Cooper. They drafted people. They got rid of Stephon Diggs. Cried and cried about Patrick Mahomes. Oh my God, you know, Rashee Rice is hurt. They went out, they got him DeAndre Hopkins. They're getting Hollywood Brown back. Everyone needs someone. No one in this league has ever been successful throwing to mailmen and postal workers or like, you know, grocery bag workers. So that part of it we've got to really like evaluate. But I like Sean's comment about how the money is going to change how he's looked, and I don't think that's fair to Brock. I really just don't.
I think Sean, I understand his
premise
points from his perspective.
I understand his premise.
Totally get it. The things like no deep ball, I want to say it doesn't have a deep ball.
I don't say he doesn't have no deep ball. No,
it's not refined.
Yeah.
In regards to ball placement. I think that's been one of the biggest things that I noticed on film is the placement of the deep ball can be better. There's plenty of instances where his deep ball is hampered because he has either a defensive lineman or one of his offensive linemen sitting in his lap, like Brock Santa Claus. So that will affect the trajectory of the throw. But there are instances where he's clean in the pocket and goes to rip it a little bit too inside. You know, I think of that one. I think it was a George Kittle running down the left sideline. He had to kind of come back for it. Wasn't able to snag it. If you hit it on that upfield outside shoulder, boom, walk-in touchdown.
That was a PI by also too. That was a pass interference.
It was. But also, like, so those things valid. The it factor thing, I have to push back on just for the simple fact of the it factor, I think, comes from an intangible element. And I think he has that intangible element. Now, if you're talking about physical it factor, okay, I understand.
Maybe.
He's not Superman. He's Batman. He's not Superman. He's Batman.
Batman finds a way to win, though, and I'll take Batman over Superman in a fight any day because he's gonna win.
Batman has the utility belt. He knows how he's human. He doesn't have these crazy superpowers, but he knows how to win his way, right? That's the difference. That's my analogy that I use all the time.
I like it.
And so I think when people see 60 to 55, that money, they think Superman. You got to be Superman to get that money. And when they see Brock, they see Batman, and when they're like, well, you're not Superman. You know, you're not Lamar. You're not Josh. You're not. So how can we pay you that? Well, look at Tua.
Yeah.
Is Tua that? No. Is Trevor that? He should be, but he's not. And that's, I think, where you have to come back and push back on you don't pay him the market value because the market is its own entity. It's its own beast. It's the cost of doing business. And the cost of doing business now in the NFL at the quarterback position, a multi-bazillion dollar industry, just happens to be between 50 and 60. I think the market explosion was first really noticed, at least in my opinion, when Kirk Cousins made $180 million off a torn Achilles at his age. And now you're seeing the ramifications of what paying a guy like that is. But, Jason, that's the cost of doing business. So that's the thing is the guys like Josh Allen don't have that 75, 70 million APY right now. So seeing Brock get, X amount more than Josh is like, oh, well, that doesn't make sense, right? Like seeing Trevor Lawrence out earning Josh Allen makes no sense. But that's the market. That's how these things are judged. It's the cost of doing business. And it's really out of anyone's control of what we think he should get.
And I think the idea of having Brock is that he's going to have to knock off one of Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, or Lamar Jackson in the Super Bowl. It's one of those three teams that are going to make it almost every single year, basically. until somebody else comes in. And people are going to look at that money and say, would you pay money to someone that in a one-on-one duel in those games that you would probably bet on the other guy? That's another part that has a lot of people very apprehensive about this. But I think your issue is not with that. Your issue is with the market. Your issue is just with the way things are going. Exactly. And who do we blame? Well, the owners don't take a stand and say, I'm not paying him that much. I'm not paying you that much. Go find it somewhere else. Go ahead.
Right.
You know,
we're gonna have to trade Brock then.
Right. Like,
I mean, and pivot to a different plan.
Look, the Baltimore Ravens said to Lamar Jackson and said, hey, we're open for business. Pay him and give us 2 first-rounders. That's kind of just when you play hardball with a 2-time MVP, doesn't it feel like it means for everybody? So, yeah, you know, and Papa says, but that's the point, Brad. Lawrence, Daniel Jones, Dak aren't worth that money. Well, Daniel Jones got like one of those like prove it, like quick guaranteed money deals. Yeah, now those franchises are screwed. Well, Dak and the Cowboys were going to be screwed regardless of who they paid. So we can throw that one out. And the Jags are the Jags.
Jags been overpaying everyone forever.
Or only 4 or 5 quarterbacks are worth that money currently. Just because it's the market doesn't mean it's smart. And this is the discourse is who's going to take a line, who's going to stand and draw a line in the sand and say no. And if you think you can get 60, go get it. Go find it. Go see who's going to give you that. And I think you'll be pleasantly surprised that you come back and you find out that it's not as sweet as you think it is. So someone's going to have to do it. I just don't know if the Niners are going to be the team to do it.
Well, that was too, like you compare it to Brandon Ayuk. They said, go find your money. Yeah. And he came back with 32 APY and an absorbent amount of guaranteed money from the Patriots. And they're like, all right, damn it, that backfired. That didn't work. They're like, actually, 3 teams would pay you what we didn't want to pay you. I'm like, all right, well, that doesn't work. So we have to make a decision here. Do we pay you the market rate or do we trade you? Yeah. So what are the 49ers going to do? I think a lot like what you said. I think they're going to give him the opportunity to test the market as best he can. You know, I don't know if they're going to trade him, but I think that's just from what I've learned. I think that's pretty standard business is like, oh, well, when you don't have you're not an unrestricted free agent, right? But we know he's not going to be playing on that rookie deal. Like I think fans need to understand that is not an option. Just like BA was an option at 14 mil.
And I don't think he's going to take a hometown discount.
I don't think so either. Why would he? That would be a disservice to every quarterback that comes behind him. And I think fans don't think of it like that either, right? The NFLPA will step in and be like, dude, what did you just take?
Mm-hmm.
You just screwed everyone down the line. What are we doing? Mm-hmm. So the fan perception and the business of the NFL, completely different, right? So it's just what it is. Like, again, if the 49ers got to a negotiation with Brock 2 years ago, we would be fine.
And
but
one more
we
thing.
did it. We did it. The market exploded.
And one more thing. It's not our money.
Exactly.
I don't have to pay him anything.
Gotta give him.
I wouldn't give him. You're not.
You're not giving him anything.
You're not.
And you don't think the cap is raising at insane levels? This money is printing, or this league is printing money, especially with all the DFS and all that stuff. Yeah. They are printing money. The cap is going to continue to rise. Absolutely.
I love when people ask me that, like, would you give him 60? I can't.
I wish I had 60 to give myself.
I wish I had 60 M's, because then I would have taken that money and I would have gave it to Juan Soto and kept him as a New York Yankee. Like, I got other business to take care of too if I got money to give out that way. But I understand why people say I wouldn't give him, that, because you're thinking about roster construction. You're thinking of roster construction, and you're thinking about the potential losses. But I don't.
But that's why the structure matters, and that's why that's a much
how they stagger it. And I trust the 49ers to not be able to not say, well, damn it, we're going to give them 60 and now we're screwed. Like, it's not that.
Yeah, like, completely just destroy the cap in the sake of cap, like to give them that money.
And Sean is asking, is Baker getting market because Baker looks better? So here's the thing. when Brad put up that top 10 stuff, right? Here's what's funny to me. The league, right? The league has all these top guys making all this money, right? And then you've got Geno, Darnold, and Baker, like in the middle. They're the mid-tier guys. And then you've got rookies. All rookies. So here's the thing. This is the top of the league. The mid-level that Baker's getting, there's only like 3 guys that are getting that. They're all getting like, and they're getting it based on the structure of how many years.
And don't forget, sorry to cut you off, but Baker was playing defensive end in scout team for his team at one point.
And the back end of it is all the rookies that are relatively cheap right now. And then you've got the Pittsburgh Steelers who are giving $2 million to 2 quarterbacks. So it's there's just the levels to it is just this is how much these top guys are making right here, right? Then you've got those few mid-level guys, very few. I think Baker has been humbled and he understands that he's in a great spot. Shout out to Liam Cohen too, who's doing a great job over there as well. And he knows that he was going to flourish, but there is no mid-level. There is no mid-level. And I don't think Brock is going to say, yeah, I should just be in there. I think there's only 2 or 3 guys that are like that. And it's Baker, Geno, and Darnold. And funny enough, Baker and Darnold. And those 3 guys are the are the reason that people will go back and say, well, he was a first round guy. Let's take a shot. And that's why those 3 guys are going to be the reason that first round guys who haven't played well are always going to get chances taken on them. And because those 3 speak because I can fix him. I can fix him. It doesn't happen a lot, but those 3 guys are the reasons that people are going to keep taking shots on first round guys. So it's just funny the quarterback tier and the pay scale is just top of the league guys, 3 mid-level guys, the rest of them are rookies, and then the Pittsburgh Steelers who pay their quarterbacks 0. It's just crazy, like how this has been working.
It is, but again, it's all circumstantial. Yeah, it's not. You can't look at it in a vacuum. It's individual to their circumstance and how they've gotten to the point where they're at, and then you take their resume and you compare it and slot it. And we can argue until we're blue in the face of what we think he should get, but that's not how it works. They're going to take his resume, his playoff wins, beating Dak, beating Jordan Love, beating Tua, beating Trevor multiple times, beating Jared Goff, and they're going to be like, beating Jalen Hurts, beating Kyler Murray, beating Kirk Cousins. No, they didn't beat Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins beat them. I remember that game.
That's all right, but it's all right.
Yeah, but you get the point. You'll get my point. They're going to Jimmy did. They're going to slide. Jimmy did. Sean's like, see?
Jimmy did.
Jimmy G is.
Jimmy G, man.
But they're going to take it and they're going to take it and they're going to compare it and slot it. And that's how it works. And then they're going to haggle over what that should be. So what the thing is what's the starting price for Brock and his reps? And what's the starting price for the 49ers? And what's the gap that has to be closed? Did Greg Papa reveal thinking it's below 50? And did Tom Pelissero reveal that the asking for Brock and his reps is around 60? Could be. But that's a big gap to bridge.
Yep.
That's a big gap to bridge. And with that big gap to bridge and a lot of time, buckle up, baby.
Oh, baby.
It's going to be fun. So hopefully we did a good enough job kind of doing our best to recap the Brock conversation, the Darnold
and level-headed about it too. But like, just to recap how this all started, if Sam Darnold was here, this team wouldn't win more games. And if Purdy was in Minnesota, they wouldn't just be destroyed.
Yeah, absolutely. Lisa says some fans have goldfish memory, but Brock deserves more than Dak. More. Get that cash, Brock.
That's the problem. Is the Cowboys were stupid enough to pay him 60, and Baker's gonna be. Well, Baker beat him too. But Brock's gonna be like, wait a minute, hold on. I get that.
That's what I'm saying. If you want to be pissed off at how much you have to pay, be pissed off at all these other teams.
Be pissed off at
inflated the market.
be pissed at the Cowboys, the Jaguars, the Cleveland Browns. Oh my God.
Yes.
Be
Browns.
be pissed at those guys that you look at on that list and you see Deshaun Watson at that level with all that guaranteed money. You see Tua up there at the top, where he's essentially a point guard in that Miami offense, and it works for what they're doing. But that's why you don't blame Brock for looking around and saying, you know,
you know who I'm mad at, Jason, and continue to be mad at for all of time? Trent Baalke.
Oh, wow.
He started it with Christian Kirk in the wide receiver market.
He did.
And then he went and did it with Trevor Lawrence in the quarterback market.
He did.
So you want to be mad at someone inflating the market, then be mad at these other teams, because you can't be mad at Brock for going out and doing what is standard operating procedure, SOP. Take your resume, compare it to others, and then slot yourself right there. And it's not his fault that he has been better than Tua, Trevor, and whoever you want to name, right? That's not his fault.
Right.
You can talk about his arm strength and his size and his small hands and weather until you're blue in the face, but that doesn't change his resume.
Trent Baalke started it all with the Vance McDonald contract.
I can't stand Trent Baalke.
I know.
Dude, we talked.
Keenan Allen.
We were at the combine.
And
I was face to face with him. My blood was boiling.
Yeah. Let me set the scene real quick. There is nobody who is more even keeled and chill than Brad Graham, but I could hear the Kill Bill music going off in his mind, and they were like, Trent Baalke's coming to podium 3, and all you heard is this man's pupils dilated. He started getting super red. Yeah, like you could see like a bead of sweat coming down his face. Like I've never seen him get like that. And it's literally because he heard Trent Baalke's name and knowing that he could be within feet of seeing him. It literally turned into Kill Bill. And he's like, "What's up, guys?"
You know what, Jason? We thought Vance McDonald was, the best prospect in the entire draft, better than Keenan Allen, better than all these other guys. Vance McDonald is a true niner.
Somebody get that man a lozenge. My God, man, has nobody ever seen that? But yeah, that's our combine story about Trent Baalke, man. Oh my God.
No, I can't stand Trent. So you want to be mad at someone about this whole quarterback market? Get mad at Brock, or get mad at Brock too, but get mad at Trent.
No, don't say get mad at Brock, because they're gonna get mad at Brock.
They're already mad at Brock.
I know.
So whatever.
Yeah.
So we're gonna
2 hours.
We're gonna do
2 hours. My God, 2 hours.
I think that's what happens when we don't stream for a while. So, and we had a lot to talk about. Let's be honest. It's we talked about in season and off season in one in season show. So seems fair, right? Seems fair.
Do we want to do some real quick fantasy stuff if you got a little bit of time?
I'm down. I'm chilling.
It's fantasy playoffs. If you've made it this far, Godspeed, because somehow I don't even know. Like, I'm looking up and down. So in a dynasty league in which my super flex quarterbacks are Patrick Mahomes and Kirk Cousins, God help me, because neither might play. I might have 0 quarterbacks going into the semifinals, even though Patrick Mahomes is a full participant. So back-to-back games, losing Kirk. All right, Francisco Nova's setting it off. You ready? I'm so lost on who to start at wide receiver. Besides Scary Terry, who should I start from? DeAndre Hopkins, DK Metcalf, Coker. Coker killed Adam Thielen. Thanks a lot, buddy. Tim Patrick, who is literally shout out to Tim Patrick. He just doesn't stop. Debo and Jameson Williams. The Tim Patrick and Jameson Williams thing is tough because you're trying to whoever you pick, it's got to be the other one who
boom
goes
or bust.
Right. And Amon-Ra went crazy this past week, and he hooked you up. The DeAndre Hopkins thing scares me a little bit because of his snap share lately. I don't love that. The opportunities need to go up, and with the way that they're operating that offense, they're just not throwing the football as much. DK Metcalf is not the number 1 receiver in Seattle anymore. Jackson Smith and Jigba is. So that is something that you also need to think about. Tyler Lockett's been completely phased out of this offense, and everything that they're kind of doing now is with Zach Charbonnet in the short passing game now at this point. Jalen Coker's back, and he was playing in the slot a lot more than Adam Thielen. Adam Thielen had an all right game, but Jalen Coker was the big one. My God, man, you definitely have to start Scary Terry. D-Hop plays Saturday. I hate Saturday games. Seattle plays. Oh my goodness, man. Hold on. I gotta look this up. I'm sorry. I should know this off the top of my head. Seattle has somebody help me out in the chat. I know you guys know. Seattle has Minnesota. It's not, and you know, their secondary kind of gives it up. They don't. It's not the. It's that's kind of where you can beat them. God, this is tough, man.
What about Debo?
I think you just do Scary Terry, and I think you just do DK Metcalf, and you just pray.
You notice how Jason skipped over Debo entirely?
Oh yeah. The only reason I keep starting Debo
like, that wasn't on.
The only reason I keep starting Debo is because the one dynasty league that I have him in,
you have to
counts kick return yards.
Ooh.
So the last two games,
I guess
the Buffalo game, he put me up almost 20 points because of all of the kick return yards. And Francisco, Geno Smith was a full participant today at practice.
Jason, I don't know if I'm in a league that also counts kick return points. Maybe one of the sneakiest like dart throw plays if you have no one. Darius Davis from the Chargers. 18 points last week, 12 points the week before, all just return yards, straight return yards.
And another one, if you're looking and your waivers is bare, Sincere McCormick is gone on the IR. Alexander Madison fumbled. Amir Abdullah is going to get a ton of run catching the football in PPR. He's a little bit of a spam, and kick return yards if you're into that sort of thing as well too. So like desperation, like you could do worse than Amir Abdullah right now. I think Jason says Jordan Addison all right, here we go. CJ Stroud or Anthony Richardson. God.
That's a tough one, dude. I was buying the CJ Stroud hype this year for
me too.
For sure. And then
Richardson against Tennessee.
So volatile.
Richardson against Tennessee, or
that's a tough one.
Or CJ Stroud against Kansas City. Oh.
Ooh, dang! You might have to go matchup based on that one.
Tony, I flip a coin and pray.
Seriously, you might have to go matchup. Anthony Richardson at home in Lucas Oil
against Tennessee.
They're benching their quarterback.
They are. Mason Rudolph is playing, but their defense is pretty good. You can't trust Richardson as a passer.
No.
If you get a touchdown, it's got to be with him running the football, man.
Yeah, back-to-back weeks with 2 interceptions.
I think you just go CJ and just pray, man. I'm praying for you, Tony.
Yeah, I think I'm going CJ too, and you just got to hope that boom comes. Nico goes crazy, Tank Dell goes crazy. Even
he just hasn't been able to hook up with Tank at all, man. He's been killing me.
It's so weird.
It's been killing me. Yeah, keep going.
Let's see what other.
Jason had one that was really good.
Okay, right here. Ooh,
both.
Ooh,
both. Jason, you gotta find a way to get both these guys in your lineup. Nobody's been hotter than either of these guys at this point.
No way you have Brian
better options
than
those two
on your
Addison.
Bench. No way.
Addison is the reason that I'm in in the playoffs because of the last few weeks. And Brian Thomas is incredible, man. Even with Mac Jones. Now think about this. It only gets better for Brian Thomas because Evan Ingram's out now, and he was a target hog. So
Strange is also a good play too.
Strange is if you're tight end desperate right now and you're hurting. You know, I want is Superflex PPR. You got to play both of them, gang. Oh no, can't do both, big dog. Nico and Amon-Ra. Oh, Addison or Brian Thomas. All right, we really got to buckle down. I have both.
So
I have both, Jason.
I'm a BT guy. So
I have both, Jason.
I've been following BT all year.
He's killing it.
He is number
I'm starting
7th. He's a 7 overall in PPR.
Brian Thomas at Las Vegas.
33 points last week.
Yes, went crazy. I
14
have to start both.
targets, 12 targets the week before, 10 targets before that.
So the dynasty league that I'm in is super flex as well too. So that's 2 quarterbacks, 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, a tight end, and 3 flexes. So I have to start Addison and Brian Thomas, with Drake London and Puka Nacua and Juwan Jennings. This is hard.
I'm going
'Cause
BT.
I
gotta go with he's my guy, so I would go with BT. He hasn't really done me wrong all season. What's his matchup looking like? He's gonna be facing
he's going to be against Vegas. Vegas is
Vegas
middle. They're
Vegas.
middle. They're middle. But
mid.
Seattle's been giving it up, and Darnold's hot.
That's true. And Addison's kind of low key cooking right now. That's a tough one. That's a
I'll
tough
say-
one. That's almost a
He had
coin flip.
He had a down game. Against Chicago, 13.3, but he had 40 the week before against Atlanta. That's the variance you can see. I think Thomas's down game is like 16, and it's between 16 and 32. It's a good floor with a high ceiling. Jason, Brian Thomas Jr., fire him up, especially with Evan Ingram not being there. Give me Brian Thomas.
I'm going BT too.
Yeah.
He's been so good to me.
Yeah.
I counted it up. I'm in 13 leagues. I only made it. I'm only still involved in 2 playoffs. I got BT in one of them. I actually got Jamar Chase, AJ Brown, and BT triple stack. That somehow have put me through, but I'm big BT. I ended up investing a ton in BT this offseason through rookie drafts, and he has been a freaking lifesaver. So
yeah,
I'm riding with my guy.
That league that we're talking about, I start Darnold, Achane, Chase Brown, Jennings, Nacua, Jonnu Smith, Thomas, Addison, London, and Anthony Richardson. I've got Garendo, Rashad White.
Ooh, Garendo's tough right now.
A.D. Mitchell, Tank Dell. I lost Rashee Rice, and I lost Evan Ingram also. So that team is loaded. But I'm kind of happy that there's injuries, so now I have to play.
It's an easier start.
yeah. I don't have to agonize over that. We got a few more. Let's do it. This is fun. Let's go.
We got Flowers or McConkey.
Got to be Ladd.
Ooh, Ladd's been cooking.
The only problem is that Ladd's a little bit banged up, and obviously Flowers is due to go off, and all of a sudden they've just stopped letting Derrick Henry score touchdowns. Thanks a lot, guys. My anytime touchdown tickets have been cooked. But Lamar threw 5 touchdowns, and 2 of them to a Rashad Bateman. It's just a little too much, right? The variance of that.
Ladd is cooking without touchdowns.
Right.
Obviously, he had a touchdown last week, but if you look at the 3 previous weeks, 4, your floor with him is 8 points. That's a bad day for him. So
Ladd.
Yeah, I think you go Ladd. I think Zay's too inconsistent.
Yeah.
He can be a target hog at times, and other times he just disappears. So choose 2: Ford, Bigsby, Coker, and Dell. Ooh.
See, Ford should be a slam. Yeah, he should be a slam dunk. But who's starting this week for them at quarterback?
Dorian.
Yes. Now,
which means they're probably going to feed him the ball, I think.
Exactly.
He's going to be the feature.
But because he can't throw the ball and Jameis can't stretch the defense, even though Ford had a really good run. So Ford's one of them, for sure.
Ford
out of these 4. Ford for sure. You'd be tempted with Tank Bigsby, but it's just
I don't like it.
Etienne's still there.
Yeah, I don't like
3.2, 11 carries, 42 yards, no catches. That stinks. Coker has the long big play, and Tank Dell just hasn't been able to get it going at all this year. He was somebody that I was just trying to target everywhere else. Half-point PPR, 5.1, 2.8, 8.7. Hasn't had 10 fantasy points since week 9.
Yeah.
Ford and Coker. That's what I'll say.
Oh, dang. So Coker had 23 points last week.
But on one big play.
And then
90-yard touchdown.
Hadn't played since
It was his first game back. So what I noticed is he took over the slot from Thielen. Now, if that's going to continue and he stays there and it's Arizona, I think it's got to be Coker. I can't bank on Tank Bigsby, and I can't bank no tanks this week. No tank, no Dell, no Tank Bigsby, no Tank Dell, no tanks.
Park the tanks.
No tanks.
That would be a hard decision for me because my stubbornness would be like, I don't want to be having Tank Dell on my bench the day he decides to go nuclear in a playoff situation.
See, that's how
my gut. So I would go with my personal gut would just be Ford and Dell, but I understand the logic to go Ford Coker as well. I would probably just be like, I can't live with myself if I bench Dell with the variable of Coker
against Kansas City. This is the week.
I think I would. I think I would just I wouldn't. I hate tinkering, and this is one of those where I'd be like, all right, just go with Dell. That's what I would do. But I understand the logic to go somewhere else.
Yeah. Well, at least, you've got some good perspectives from both. So, yeah.
It's a hard decision.
For sure.
I think we're dead set on the first pick. The second one was definitely a coin flip. Laporta, Harrison, Ramondre Stevenson in the flex.
Well, you can look at the Laporta thing and say because Montgomery is going to be out for the season that obviously they're going to feed Jahmyr Gibbs, and I think that's true. But what if there's a world where everybody starts going and finding out that Sam Laporta is still really good?
I mean, and honestly, the last four out of the last 5 weeks, he's been nearly 20 points or more.
But some of those performances scare me, Brad, because I remember one of them was 3 catches, 2 touchdowns, and like 9 yards.
three catches, 6 yards, 2 touchdowns.
Yeah. I just was like, points. I was just like, what on earth is that?
But he had 6 targets that game, 6 targets the week prior, the week after 7 for 5. And then just last week, he was 10 for 7. He's trending in the right direction. He's trending up, but
I'll say Laporta because I think that they're going to offset the loss of Montgomery by feeding one of their better players. Their better players. Marvin Harrison scares me just because of the performance, and Kyler Murray's talking about getting Trey McBride his first receiving touchdown of the season, and he's already been force feeding him the ball as well too.
Yeah.
And Ramondre Stevenson, I really have little faith in that offense, right now. So probably I lean Laporta right now, but hey, it's up to you, man. Godspeed. Keep going. We got a bunch.
Hollywood Brown, JJ, Jameson Williams, AJ Brown, Addison Patrick. Tell me which 3 I should run with.
JJ, AJ, and Addison. Justin Jefferson, AJ Brown, Jordan Addison. Hollywood Brown coming back already off the rip is probably going to be on a pitch count. Too soon.
I love Hollywood Brown's fit in KC.
He's eventually going to be good for them, and that's going to be annoying, but it's not going to be during the fantasy playoffs.
He could pop, but it's a variable, and I would go with consistency.
Stick with the offense that's been giving you everything. Justin Jefferson and Addison, if you've been starting them together, you've been very happy.
Yeah, I mean, JJ, AJ, and AD.
And Addison.
Yeah, you're cooking.
Easy. Yeah. Don't worry, Brian. I was starting Jonnu Smith and Trey McBride.
JSN or Pickens?
JSN. Pickens didn't practice again today. It's got to be the number 1 receiver in Seattle. It's got to be JSN. He's taken over as slot, and Geno just has eyes for him. Like, he's literally evolving. This is pretty simple for me, especially because I don't think Pickens is going to play. But even if Pickens plays, how can you bench the guy that's one of the hotter receivers in the league right now?
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that's it.
Might be more. Or you could pull up the T-Dub one at the end here. This is a good question.
He's hoarding Laporta, Bowers, McBride all year.
10-team league, 1 flex.
10-team league, 1 flex.
Hope you've been playing Bowers and McBride. That's the only way that you've been making this work, because if you've been benching one of those 2 guys, ooh, man, you've been doing it wrong. No, I don't really hate that, because in the league that I just my home league, I went and I jumped on Jonnu and I had Trey McBride, and I was starting them both, and then Mark Andrews popped up on my waiver wire, and I just picked him up just to play defense. Nothing wrong with that. I pick people up that you need for depth, but also playing defense is just as good as playing offense. Not a dick at all, in my opinion.
I'm assuming X is Xavier.
Xavier Worthy?
Yeah, that's what I'm assuming. That's a tough one. I think who has better touchdown upside out of the two, especially with Hollywood Brown coming back.
And I think that Hollywood Brown kind of takes away from X. Alberto, we said JJ and JJ Addison.
We just talked about yours.
JJ Addison and AJ Brown, Alberto.
JJ, AJ, AD.
Yeah, it's simple. Addison. See, the person that stands to lose the most by him coming back is Xavier Worthy, because they play
the same role, right?
Similar roles.
Yeah.
So even if he's on a snap count, it's still going to eat into his snaps, and he wasn't exactly getting peppered with targets in this thing.
His upside, I feel like, are like end arounds in the red zone area.
Probably Hopkins
is more like a natural wide receiver.
I'd ask you this, and this is how you're probably going to find to get to your question or your answer. What do you need? Do you need floor or do you need ceiling?
Yeah,
that's your answer right there. If you need floor, it's Hopkins. If you're going for the boom play and you think that
you're going for the two touchdowns on the end around,
then Worthy. And Mahomes is playing. He's got 2 full participations, and you didn't think he was going to miss the game, did you?
No, absolutely not.
My leg is broken in 4 places, and my leg's broken in 4 places, and I had a compound fracture. But I'm good. I should be good for Sunday.
He's so look how tough he is.
And just look and watch. Well, I'm gonna be watching the game. Just looking. Mahomes gutting it out. Shut up, man. Shut up. I want to hear that shit. Sorry,
dude. We're so done.
We're off the rails.
We're so done with the cheese. Screw the cheese, man. I hate it.
Yeah, man, I'm tired of it.
Kupp or Garrett Wilson,
man. Okay, so
who are they playing?
If you believe it can't get worse for the Rams. Or for Kupp, like Kupp's not washed at all.
So.
Kupp's not washed. The Jets are playing the Rams. Aha! So it's the same game.
Oh, it's the same game.
Same game.
Where?
In LA.
I'm going Kupp.
I think so too. No, wait, hold on. Yeah, it's in LA. Yeah, give me Kupp. I think you're gonna get yourself a squeaky wheel game here. He complained behind the scenes. I think everybody's kind of laughing at the fact that he didn't get anything.
That was just a weird game though.
I roll with Kupp, man, because it seems like Aaron Rodgers is trying to placate his homie. Thanks a lot, Davante Adams. I can't believe that you destroyed my fantasy season, and it feels absolutely personal. Yeah, and you know what's crazy? The people that had Davante Adams didn't make the playoffs, but somehow the guy that I faced had Davante Adams, and you know how sickening it is to look at 3:30 Eastern PM and know that your playoffs are over. You're cooked of 42 points. 42 points when Davante Adams, he literally didn't have 42 over like the last 4 weeks. Thanks a lot, Davante Adams. You made yourself a powerful enemy this day. I don't know what I did to you. I don't know what made you say screw Jason, but you did, and now you're my mortal enemy. You just made the list.
Yeah. I feel it for sure. Sorry, I got distracted.
Facing Saquon Barkley and all these other guys who don't do anything, but Davante Adams goes up for 42. Fantasy football is so stupid.
It is. No skill involved at all.
None.
It's just dart throws at the end of the day. Oh, good stuff. I think that's a good spot to end it on. I think today's a good stream. We talked about a lot. And there's a lot to talk about with this team. So I think per usual, I think we did a good job covering it. I really do think we talked about it as objectively as possible. Got a little spicy in between, but I think we handled it. I think we did what we needed to do. We came here, we conquered. One more on the way out. Stafford
Stafford
versus
the Jets.
Yes, Stafford.
Stafford.
Yeah, absolutely. Appreciate everyone for tapping in. You got anything else cooking?
No, just more articles on NinersNation.com. Remember, guys, I didn't name the site. It's just the site that pays me.
Niners Nation, Jason.
Yeah, I know. It's just the site that pays me to write. So obviously, if you hit me up, on YouTube, then that we'll be doing streams and everything tomorrow. Peacock and Aponte, Friday sprint right option. With Andrew, those should be good. We're winding down the season, but the content doesn't stop, and we're just happy that we get more time to hang out with you guys, regardless if it's for not as many weeks as we thought it would be. So see you guys this week, and make sure you stay locked in on NinersNation.com, where I write every single day on there.
There's a game this week, Jason.
There is.
It doesn't even feel like it's just like I'm just like
Yeah.
I've come to accept the fate that like the season. It's like
there is.
we
I mean,
this week.
and even Coach Mike's not even giving us a lot of quotables or anything like that. He's just like, is he losing his fastball?
Dude, I feel bad for him.
He looks like he's going through it right now.
Different person.
Yeah.
And,
I would hate for the Dolphins to zap his youthful energy.
I think they have. I think it was the concussion stuff. I think that is what ultimately ruined the mojo, if that makes sense. Like all the controversy that's like followed them over it.
And Tua was good until this past week against Houston.
Did you see him not attempt to make that tackle on the interception? He just kind of like jogged.
Smart.
Yeah, he didn't make headlines.
Smart. Well, I mean, it made headlines, but it was smart because I don't want to watch Tyler Huntley play football anymore.
I mean, yeah, like it is what it is. Like that, I guarantee you, he got a stern do not tackle anyone on your interception.
Yeah.
So
I wish Brock sometimes would not like lead with his shoulder and his arm on these interceptions. Like, come on, guy. Yeah. I understand. Big football guy.
You're a gamer. Yeah. You're a gamer.
Big football guy. I like that. Keep that energy, but let's be smart, please.
Yeah. Don't hurt yourself.
Don't hurt yourself. God, like this is what happened to Jake Moody. Like, stop.
All right, guys. Shout out to everyone for tapping in. Good stream. Appreciate this one. You guys already know what to do. Like it up on both, sub to both, all that good stuff. We are out of here for now. Peace. That's Jason Aponte. I'm Brad Graham. We're going to get into it all right now.